Sir, please. Sir, and introduce the party.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, all the dignitaries. I hope I am audible. Am I audible?
Yes,
Little
yes.
bit muted.
Yes. Good morning, Dr. P.S. Patil, sir. Very, very good morning on behalf of our college and our Barasai Money Education Trust. Today is a very, very significant and vital day in the life of our college. Our college is situated in a rural area, but still we take such sort of activities that define the team spirit that we have. At the hello, so all the dignitaries on these virtual days, I welcome Professor Dr. P.S. Patil sir, Pro Vice Chancellor Shivaji University Kolhapur, our patron Dr. Srimati Nivedita Mane Madam, the President of Barasai Mane Education Trust Rukadi, Honorable Mr. Dharishil Mane, MP, Lok Sabha, Secretary of Barasai Mane Education Trust, our principal and the chairperson of the inaugural function of the e-seminar, International Multidisciplinary e-seminar on trends in research, Principal Dr. P.V. Kamble sir, all the participants, resource persons, chairpersons, and all the other dignitaries on this virtual platform. Friends, research is a natural instinct which can be found in each and every living being on this planet. It is never-ending process which converts the unknown into known, and it transforms the known into the more known. All the species in this world are engaged in the kind of research at some stages during their lifetime. The animals and birds involved in migration can be considered the instances of exhibiting research instincts. They are continuously engaged in a kind of problem solving endeavors. No doubt, cannot have documentation as such. In fact, research is a process to find out new knowledge to get solutions to a problem. Research exhibits certain qualities such as pre-arranged structured inquiry, acceptable scientific methodology to solve problems, and creation of generally applicable new knowledge. Research is a creative process to develop better understanding of all the issues. Hence, it should be useful to those who wish to apply the research findings in developing new policies for public betterment. Research is an activity that leads us to find out new facts, information, should help us in verifying the available knowledge and enables us question things that are difficult to understand as per existing data. Research is a continuous activity in the majority of disciplines and professions. It is useful in critical assessment of the way we work, execute policies, and give instructions in our profession. It is a systematic exploration of processes to find better ways to do things and to reduce the effort being put into achieve objective and identify the validity of the targets. Friends, in fact, research is a subconscious activity that we are involved in at all times. With the advancement of information and technology, research in every discipline has undergone a noticeable change. It is supposed to be in pace with the necessities of new times, the emergence of new fields of knowledge and the advanced technology has proved to be advantageous for research activities. Similarly, diversity of currents of thoughts in the present scenario across the world offers a welcome call to research. Accordingly, our college has organized the present e-seminar, to consider the trends and areas in research across disciplines with the aim to ensure good quality research. I am very happy to share with you that for the inaugural function of this seminar, we have a renowned scholar and eminent researcher, Honorable Professor Dr. P.S. Patil sir, Pro Vice Chancellor of Shivaji University, Kolhapur. Actually, such personality, a doyen researcher, needs no introduction, but as a matter of formality, here I am attempting a brief introduction to Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor Professor Dr. Pramod Patil sir. Actually, he is working as a professor in Department of Physics in Shivaji University, Kolhapur since 1990. He is a complete student of Shivaji University, Kolhapur, and we feel very proud that the product of Shivaji University is holding the highest administrative post in Shivaji University. We feel very proud to have a inaugurator like Professor Pramod Patil sir. He is one of the top 10 knowledge producers in India by career careers 360 ranking as per 2018 data. In 2020, he ranked in world top 2% scientists by Stanford University, USA. He is outstanding research. He has received outstanding research faculty award by outstanding research faculty award by careers 360 ranking in India. He has served as ex-coordinator of Department of Energy Technology, former coordinator or director of School of Nanoscience Technology, former head Department of Physics, former director of IQAC Cell Shivaji University, Kolhapur. Under his guidance, under his supervision, 48 scholars have completed PhD and 6 scholars have completed MPhil research. 2 PhD scholars are pursuing research, PhD research under his guidance. He has published more than 510 research papers in international, national research journals of well-reputed, and more than 600 abstract of national and international conferences. The total citations for his papers is 23,200 index, which is equal to 78 I-10 index, which is equal to 425.
माइक बरोबर चाललंय.
Uh, his score is 48.18. The total research paper views by Mendeley, his total research paper views is 4,75,668. He has written 4 books, 6 book chapters, and one of them is Korean, and three of them, one Korean patent and 3 Indian patents, and he has recently submitted one patent also. He is a recipient of prestigious German Academic Exchange Service Fellowship Award for 1996-98 at Han Mechtiner Institute, Berlin, Germany. He is a recipient of prestigious Brain Pool Fellowship Award of South Korea for the year 2005-6. Seoul National University, South Korea. He is a fellow member of Institute of Physics, London, United Kingdom. He is a fellow of Maharashtra Academy of Sciences during November 2013. He is a life member of the National Academy of Sciences, India. He is a member of World Class Skills Ranking Intelligent Unit. He is a member of Quarterly Franklin Membership. He is a recipient of prestigious Brain Pool Fellowship Award of South Korea for the year 2012-2013, Konnam National University, South Korea. He has been former Dean of Science and Engineering Faculty, Shivaji University, Kolhapur. He has been BOS Chairman of Physics in Shivaji University, Kolhapur. He has served the Shivaji University, Kolhapur and other universities in various authorities. So, sir has been the editor of International Journal of Material Science, Hindwari, Applied Surface Sciences Advances, Elsevier Publishers. He is a review editor of Frontiers Materials during 2014, May 2014. He is an international research project reviewer of CASI Foundation, Israel government. He is a member of project evaluator. He is a project evaluator of National Council of Science and Technology, Mexico, Government of Mexico. He is international PhD reviewer of Cairo University, Egypt. He is a visiting professor of Konnam National University, South Korea. He has completed individual projects worth 4 crore 75 lakhs. He has received 1 crore 20 lakh. He has received 1 crore 20 lakh funds from Center of Nano Fabrics, Rusa. His project DBT Builder, which is funded, and he has received the fund 5 crores for that project. He has even been instrumental in common projects worth He has played significant role in the common projects worth rupees 7 crore 3 lakh. He has been honored with Best Teacher Award during the year 2014 of Shivaji University, Kolhapur. And it is very, very noticeable that one of his PhD students received Best PhD thesis in the world during 2014. So, as an inaugurator, we have such a dynamic researcher and we welcome him on behalf of Barasaheb Mali Education Trust, Rukadi, Rajarshi Shahu College, Kolhapur, Rukadi, Jyoti Kiran Publication, Pune, and Rotary Club of Ichalkaranji Central, Ichalkaranji. The keynote speaker for today's e-seminar is is the research scholar Mr. Abhijit Malunker. I am going to give his brief introduction to you. He is a PhD candidate in deep learning at Technology University, Dublin, Ireland, and his study is co-funded by Adapt Research Centre, Ireland. He is a member of Applied Intelligence Research Centre, Dublin, Ireland. He studies the neural language, how neural language models, LLMs, represent data with long distance dependencies. He had worked with autonomous underwater vehicles and wireless sensor networks. He is a co-founder of IoT company PTQ, Goa, India. He provides technical assistance to QBC Technologies, LPP, Goa, India. His interests are deep learning, natural language processing, sequential models, robotics, wireless sensors, sensor networks. Actually, he belongs to the stream of engineering. He has completed his BE in Electronics and Telecommunication in 2010 from Goa Engineering College, Goa, India. But this is the age of this is a multidisciplinary age. And in this interdisciplinary age, Mr. Abhijit Malunker is applying his knowledge of electronics and telecommunication to deep knowledge learning. He is applying his knowledge to the language learning. And this is very, very noteworthy one. As far as he has worked as instructor of robotics at Dublin City University, he is instructor of robotics at the Center of Talented Youth, Ireland. He has worked as assistant lecturer at Technological University of Dublin. He is a technical advisor on web applications. He is a project assistant with autonomous underwater vehicles, and he is a very, very popular speaker on formal grammars with linguistics. He is a very popular speaker with that. He has published articles in reputed international journals, I welcome Abhijit Malunker sir on this occasion with this introduction to the e-seminar titled Trends in Research and brief introduction to Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor Professor Dr. P.S. Patil sir, the inaugurator of the e-seminar, and the brief introduction to the keynote speaker, Mr. Abhijit Manulkar. I take my leave of yours. Thank you. Thank you very much. Over to the compeer, Dr. Madhu Solanki.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And now may I request the dynamic, knowledgeable, able administrator as well as a very good academician, Professor Dr. P.S. Patil, the Vice Chancellor of the Shivaji University, Kolhapur, to inaugurate the seminar and render his best wishes to this seminar. Professor Dr. P.S. Patil, sir.
Am I audible, madam?
सर नमस्ते.
Ah,
गुड मॉर्निंग. आवाज येतो सर, आवाज येतो.
okay, good. So, very good morning to all of you.
Very good morning, sir.
Very good morning. Honorable Sri Dhairashilji Mane, our young and dynamic MP from this region, and the Deputy President of this college, Honorable Dr. Nivedita Mane, Madam, then Dr. Prashant Kumar Kamble, sir, the Principal of this college, Professor Dr. Uttamji Patil, Mr. Abhijit Malunkar, research scholar, and who is a keynote speaker of this morning session, various renowned invited speakers from all over the country, teachers, students, and my dear participant friends. I'm indeed very happy to be here on the occasion of inaugural function of one-day multidisciplinary international e-seminar on trends in research, organized by Rajarshi Shahu Arts and Commerce College, Rukadi, in collaboration with Jyotikiran Publications, Pune, and Rotary Club of Ichalkaranji. In fact, Dr. Uttamji Patil, I would like to congratulate you. You have given a very nice introduction of myself, as well as the keynote speaker of today's morning session. In fact, this is the point where I would like to congratulate all the teachers and the principal of the college, because they have thought of organizing the conference, which is a multidisciplinary international conference. It is not very easy to conduct such international conferences in the remote and rural place like Rukadi, but because of the now facility of this e-mode and online mode, it is now possible to conduct an international conference. However, it reveals that you people are very well aware of what is going on in the world, what are the hot topics of the world, and what is necessary to improve the quality of higher education in the colleges and in the country. And therefore, I would like to congratulate entire team of Rajarshi Shahu Arts and Commerce College, Rukadi. In fact, as we know that in India, we are celebrating Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav. We have just completed 75 years of our independence, and therefore Government of India has come up with loads of events related to Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav, so that this particular culture has to be penetrated into the students, and students have to be made aware of in what circumstances we have got the independence. And therefore, we are celebrating in a big way the Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav. Various activities have been undertaken by the university and by all the affiliating colleges of the university. One more important event is that we are also celebrating Hirak Mahotsav of Shivaji University, Kolhapur. We have completed recently the 60 years of our establishment, and therefore we are also celebrating Hirak Mahotsav, organizing various events for the sake of the students. So, as far as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is concerned, I would like to focus more on that because it is a very, very important event in everybody's life. And therefore, it is an elixir of energy of the independence. It is the elixir of inspirations of warriors of freedom struggle. And it is the elixir of Atmanirbharta. On the occasion of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, we need to imbibe we need to think about whether we are Atmanirbhar. If not, we have to become Atmanirbhar as soon as possible. This particular word is very, very important for us because as we know that we are a developing nation. There are several other nations who were also a developing nations, but now they can be called as developed nation. But we are struggling in the domain of developing nation. So we have to think a lot. So how to make a quantum jump from the domain of developing nation to the domain of developed nation. And if we really want to jump into the domain of the nation, we have to be Atmanirbhar. We have to create our own technology. We have to create our own resources. We have to be independent on every aspect. And therefore, it is very, very important. So this particular conference, I think, will give a lot of new ideas to the students and participants so that you can think differently and multidisciplinary way of learning and teaching would be more effective. If you look at the new education policy or National Education Policy 2020, which has been recently launched by the Government of India, has also given undue importance to the multidisciplinary education. So in order to find out what exactly is the multidisciplinary education, let us take an example of current situation of higher education institution. What is our education system currently that we are using? Currently, we have certain verticals like arts, commerce and science, engineering, pharmacy. These are the verticals. Once the students enter into one vertical, he has to complete his degree into that vertical itself. For example, a student after 12th standard has taken admission into the first year BA, FY BA, then he has to take a degree in BA itself, and then he has to enter into MA. So this is the vertical in which he is traveling across, and he or she is not permitted to migrate here and there, and he is confined into that particular channel. So it is a singular channel. It is not multidisciplinary. It is not even interdisciplinary. And therefore, the progress of the student is in the one dimension or one direction. However, in the National Education Policy 2020, what has been emphasized is that the student has to undertake overall personality development. His 360 degrees development is very, very important. The student of arts should also know something about the commerce, something about the law, something about science and technology also. And therefore, we are geared up into the domain of multidisciplinary education, and we are working a lot on this particular aspect at Shivaji University, and in every affiliating colleges, it is necessary for you to imbibe this particular structure in your curriculum. Sometime back in 2016, Shivaji University has made one attempt of implementing choice-based credit system, in which we have also offered the ability enhancement and skill enhancement of the students. So the students who are completing the degree like MA, MCom or MSc, they are not only in master of arts and science, but they also should know something about his ability. For example, in the case of ability enhancement, we have launched communication English as a subject for all the students across all the faculties. In order to improve the skills of the students, we have implemented fundamentals of information technology and computer technology to all the students for all the across all the disciplines. As we know, currently this particular world is changing at a very, very high speed, very rapidly. And therefore, technology is changing rapidly. And therefore, we need to teach to the students what the current technology is, what will be the future technology is, and then we have to make our students ready to accept tomorrow's challenges. Otherwise, our students will lag behind and they will not be able to compete on the international level. And we will also not be able to become Atmanirbhar on our own. In order to have this, we need to teach the students about what is artificial intelligence, what is data science, what is IoT, robotics, smartphone technology, and 5G technologies like that. So these are the upcoming technologies, and we need to teach all these technologies to the students. Students must be aware of all this particular change that is going to happen very rapidly in the next future, near future. And therefore, not only to acquire the knowledge, but we should do something to produce the products. It is very important that we should put an emphasis on manufacturing units. But it is not that easy, and therefore our students have to take certain challenges. Currently, what are the challenges in front of them? They have to become entrepreneur, they have to innovate something, they have to invent something, they have to convert this invention into innovation, and that's why they can become entrepreneur. And after that, they can also start the startups, and therefore Government of India has put a lot of emphasis on starting the startups. Whether our students are ready to accept this particular challenge of starting the startups, that is the different question. We at our university are doing a lot, and we are also telling all the affiliated colleges to imbibe this particular culture into the students. They should think differently. As we know, winners don't do different things. They do things differently. So I always tell my students, don't just keep on collecting the stamps. You have to design your own stamp. And that particular rapid change in the education system has to be there. And therefore, we need to coach, we need to train, we need to counsel the students in that particular aspect. Then those students with the knowledge can think of doing something different, can think of starting something different. Then you may arts and commerce faculty students cannot, they do not know what is the technology, they don't have a background of engineering, they don't know the science, then what is their role in this particular aspect? In my opinion, they are the most vital and most important stakeholders, because they need not have to produce their own technology, they don't have to start anything related to technology, but they can see what others are doing and others are producing the technology, and they can produce the extra ecosystem to the technologists. They can produce and provide the ecosystem that is needed to be supplied to the entrepreneurs and startups. They need to know what is the market, what is the margin, commerce, and other financial aspects of the products which has been developed by a certain students from science and engineering background. So if I produce some product today, then somebody else, some team should be there to support my product and tell me what are the financial problems in the future and what exactly will be the benefit of this particular product if I launch that product into the market. And therefore, the role of arts and science and arts and commerce students is also very, very important. If we really want to build up a very strong research, innovation, and extension ecosystem, then we should also rope in the students and teachers from arts and commerce into this particular main stream. And therefore, the startups, entrepreneurship, and other things are not only confined to the students of science and engineering, but that can be also taken up by arts and commerce students. And this is the way in which you have started, and you have today organized this multidisciplinary conference for the students of arts and commerce. And therefore, it is very, very important and welcome step taken by your college. As far as Atmanirbharta is concerned, as far as self-independence is concerned, I was working in the Department of Physics and School of Nanoscience and Technology, which was established by myself on the university campus in 2012 on the occasion of Golden Jubilee celebration of our university. I am the hardcore researcher, and I have done a lot of work related to the development of the technology. I was passionate about developing our own indigenous technology. Wherever you go, you have to think about producing and developing some indigenous technology rather than using the technology brought from the country like China or USA or Japan. Can we develop our own country? Now, as Dr. Uttamji Patil was telling you about myself, that I have established an array of sophisticated analytical instrumentation facility where we have a very strong infrastructural facility. But if I go in the lab and if I see all these instruments are either made in Germany or made in America or made in Japan. So very few instruments or very primitive instruments are being fabricated in our country. And that was my motivation of starting something new on the university campus. We have done a lot of research work related to the smart window technology. That smart window technologies is not yet there in our country, but which is already there in the developed countries like Germany and America and Japan. And that technology we are developing in our university. And I'm very happy to tell you that I am in the 8th rank in the world in that particular technology. However, the support that I require, that the ecosystem that I require to penetrate my product into the market is not there. And therefore, if we really want to start something new, if we really want our students to start the startups and produce the new products, then we have to supply the ecosystem. And therefore, in National Education Policy 2020, the students are at the center stage. They are at the nucleus, and the teachers, the scientists, the entrepreneurs, and the infrastructural facilities, institutes, colleges, and the universities are on the periphery. It is our work, it is our responsibility to provide each and every aspect and knowledge to the students. The students should have to update themselves with modern knowledge. The modern knowledge means the knowledge which is required currently in the world, modern world. Today, as we know, that this is the digital era. Everything has been digitized. And therefore, this era is very, very important. This is rapidly developing, and therefore, lot of employabilities are available. In national education policy, there has been a lot of emphasis on providing some courses to the students so that they will be employable, job ready, and they will get their job, or they can start something on their own so that they can give others job, and that is very, very important. So in that particular sense, this NAP has incorporated one thing, that is the second, that is MEM. The first point was education. Second point is multiple entry and multiple exit option in the arts faculty or commerce faculty.
हॅलो पाटील सर, आपला माईक बंद झालेला आहे. आदरणीय पाटील सर, आपला माईक चालू करा.
हा, बघा बरं.
चला सर, चालू झाला. ओके.
Okay, thank you. Uh, so, yes, I was telling about multiple entry, multiple exit option that is available in the national education policy. We are working on that. It has also been provided with ABC, that is Academic Bank of Credit. So student can get a credit from any other universities of the country, and you can that particular credit can be transferred to his credits in the Rukadi College, and that facility also is being given to the students from the next academic year. Not only that, any student from any college or the university departments can undertake a course from America, Japan, or any other Stanford universities or any other international universities, and the credits earned by the student can be transferred to his account at Shivaji University. And that particular aspect we are working on, and we are also developing various powerful software so that the students' credits can be transferred, and that can be, the students will get benefit of that. Not only that, his development would be 360 degrees. His development will be holistic development. Rather than coming out with a single motivation and single dimension, he has to add different dimensions like ability, like skill, and different other knowledges are very, very important. And therefore, we to need to spread the awareness among the students. We need to tell them that this is the opportunity for them. They can take an advantage of this opportunity, and they can develop their own personality. And tomorrow we have to produce a lot of many scientists, many entrepreneurship, many startup students. And the team of the student is very, very important. In India, fortunately, we have a demographic dividend. Demographic dividend means there are more number of people of young age in India as compared with other countries. But only thing is that we need to ignite their minds. We need to channelize their energy in a proper direction. And therefore, the research is very, very important. Today's topic of your conference is Trends in Research. Research will give a new idea to you. It will give a new angle of thinking, and it will give you a new perspective of thinking, of looking at the problems. So as a researcher, as a university, or as a higher education institution, we need to create the new knowledge which is applicable to the society for its upliftment. And therefore, we are also seeking out and going out and reaching to the industries in and around Kolhapur, Sangli, and Satara districts. There are industrial sectors around Kolhapur, Sangli, and Satara districts. Like there are sectors like sugar industries, food industries, textile industries, and many other industries which are there. And therefore, we need to go out. Like foundry industry is the biggest industry in Kolhapur and Ijalkaranji. There are many foundries, but they have some problems. So the first thing as an educator is to find out the problems of the society, find out the problems of the industries, and provide them with the solution which is viable and commerciable and simple. And therefore, in our university, we are also training our students to go out and visit all the industrial sectors and come in with the problems that they are facing. We are also organizing several collaborative meetings with them and asking them which are the problems that you are facing. And in that particular way, we want to create the bank of problems. Just like bank of credits, we need to develop bank of problems, because as an educationist, we should know what are the problems of our society. There may be social problems, there may be political problems, but there may be some other problems that our society is facing. But knowing the problems is our problem. And therefore, we are taking one step ahead and asking the students to visit not only industries, but visit entire sectors of stakeholders and the society and find out, come in and tell us what are the problems that they are facing. So at least we need to do something to solve those problems. And that is the main aim, main mandate and objective of any higher education institute. Universities are there to create new knowledge and to apply that knowledge to the society for its upliftment. And if your knowledge is not useful to that society, it is useless in one way. And therefore, our students must be aware of the problems, and we are on the way of creating the bank of problems that our society is facing. What are the problems that the foundry industry is facing? What are the problems that the food industry, sugar industry, and many other industries are facing? Textile industry is also there, and we not only the problems, but you can also add some values into their products. For example, some years back we have also interacted with DKT, which is a textile engineering institute, and there are many textile industries in and around Ichalkaranji. I think you can take up one aspect like textile industry in Ichalkaranji, because Rukadi is very close to Ichalkaranji, and you have to give the projects to the students from arts and commerce colleges. They should know, I mean, arts students, they can study this industry in different angle that the science students will not understand. Therefore, you can find out some projects related to the textile industry that can be given to the art students. You can find out some problems related to the commerce of the textile industry and give those projects to the commerce students and commerce teachers. Of course, the teachers must also be well versed with these problems. Otherwise, it will not be possible for them to train the students in that particular sector. And therefore, students and teachers should go hand in hand and find out what are the problems that our sectors are facing. In fact, it is our duty to find out the solutions for them, and therefore we can provide a lot of things to them. We can improve the quality of work life of those workers, improve the quality of work life of those industrialists. And in that particular aspect, we have undertaken several initiatives on the universities. And for example, one problem that has come up, and that is the problem of waste sand. Some thousands and millions of sand, millions of kilograms of sand has been disposed in the environment on open ground after using it in the foundry. So that is the problem of waste sand, which is degrading the environment. That is the problem of foundry industry. And now our students are working on the solution, how to utilize and recycle these particular waste sand into the product. Again, how to utilize the sand and develop some new products out of this waste sand. That is one more thing. Another problem that, as we know, that itself the textile industries are there, they are polluting. The pollution, these effluents are very, very toxic, very pollutant, and therefore we need to find out some solution to provide clean water that can be dispensed into the river, so that drinking water will be very clean without pollution. That is another problem that you can tell your students. At least they can collect the data, they can analyze the data statistically and mathematically, and they can come up with certain solutions that you can tell to that industry that this may be possible reason, this may be possible solution to your problems in the industry. So that has to be taken out, and the solving the problems of the industry has been also been given a lot of importance into the national education policy. So like this, on the university, of course, now we have come out of COVID-19 pandemic situation. But during pandemic, everybody was under lockdown mode. But in Shivaji University, in some of the departments, we were in the mission mode, because we were aspiring to find out some solution to the COVID pandemic. And you may think that, sir, since our university is related to not production, but how you can think of producing something which is useful for avoiding the COVID-19 pandemic. Fortunately, ours multidisciplinary. Again, I wanted to tell you this aspect, interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary. I just appointed 4 teachers on that particular project, and they were working day and night during lockdown mode. We have opened the labs, we have allowed only few researchers to work in that particular lab. Even some girls were also there in that particular team, and we came together and started working on that. Because there is one company in America which is called as the Kraton Private Limited. They had some raw material, and they were contacting several industries and institutions in Mumbai and Pune, but everything was closed because of the COVID-19. Finally, somebody told them that you may contact Shivaji University, and then the CEO of that company contacted me, and we have accepted that challenge. And as per their demand, we started developing antiviral coating for them. And that particular product has been launched during pandemic by the hands of Honorable Minister, Education Minister at that time. So that product is still available in Amazon and Flipkart. So this particular example is a very good example for other students to take, because it is very important for us to imbibe confidence into our students which are coming from the rural background, that we can also do something, our friends can also do something, our university, our college also can produce something which is beneficial for the society. Okay, so that particular confidence has to be built up into the minds of the students, and therefore they have to be ignited by giving the proper knowledge, by giving the proper challenges, and by giving a proper infrastructure to the students. If any college is facing some problems, you can directly contact university. Universities are there to help the people and students and teachers of the colleges, and therefore we have launched many schemes for the benefit of the students and teachers of the colleges. We are organizing innovation meets every month, and we are in fact demanding various ideas of the students. Tomorrow you can conduct one meeting of the students and ask them, what is your idea of becoming India becoming Atmanirbhar? Let them write 1 or 2 pages, let them write some essays and submit to you. You may get some ideas from the students. There may be, our education system is such that we just facilitate the habit of read, remember, and reproduce. They need now to learn, understand, and apply their knowledge so that they can solve the problems. Let the student be a problem solver of the society. And therefore, it is necessary to change entire paradigm of giving the education to the students. And therefore, we are geared up in an higher education institution by implementing this NEP, National Education Policy. And by way of that, we can change the scenario of entire higher education institutions, and the way we are imparting knowledge to the students, the way we are training the teachers, because teachers have also to be trained. And there is MSFDA, that is called as a Maharashtra State Faculty Development Agency, established by Rashtriya Uchatar Shiksha Abhiyan. In Pune, there is a headquarter of training the teachers in the line of National Education Policy 2020, empowering the teachers. Because unless we empower, unless we train our teachers, the students will not be trained, students will not be empowered, their knowledge will not be enriched. And therefore, it is necessary for us to first come together, in spite of from which discipline you are there, we all come together in a team. And capacity enhancing is very, very important. This is the need of the hour. If we really want to become Atmanirbhar, if we really want to jump from the domain of developing nation to the developed nation, we have to come together and we have to do a lot of activities together. So team building also is very, very important. And that is the way in which I think we should go ahead. And team building, in spite of in which discipline, it is interdisciplinary, it should be interdisciplinary, it should be multidisciplinary, and that will definitely help many people to come out of this domain of developing nation to the domain of developed nation. So the challenges are there, excitements are there, bottlenecks are there are limitations also, but we should keep on working. Because as we know, the journey of 1,000 miles start with work. So we have to, without we cannot travel. So, to give you in direction. You know, as far as my knowledge and my understanding go, everyone is now using smartphones. Who is the creator of the smartphone? Nobody knows. But who is marketing smartphones? iPhones, for example, iPhone. Everybody knows the name of Steve Jobs, but nobody knows who is the engineer who designed this iPhone. So that particular engineer, his name is also Steve. He designed iPhone on his own by using his own technology because he's an engineer. And once that particular phone was ready, Steve Jobs saw that this is a vital technology that will hit the future. And with the help of this invention that has been done by the engineer Steve, he could find that the future will be in the hands of iPhone company. And therefore, he took that particular product and he started marketing that product differently. The screen that we are using today, the screen which is called as a touch sensing screen, that touch sensor has been firstly implemented by the iPhones, and that is why it is now leading not only touch sensor, but there are many other technological revolutions made by scientists, engineer Steve, and which has been marketed and provided ecosystem by Steve Jobs. So everybody knows Steve Jobs, but nobody knows Steve, that engineer who developed and designed that particular object. Anyway, so we also have to do something. We have to create the ecosystem so that tomorrow our students should create and start marketing our own products rather than taking advantage, rather than taking help of the countries like China or any other country. We have to start our own production. And the beginning is from colleges and the universities, because we need to teach our students in that particular perspective. The students' perspective has to be changed. And therefore, this is not simple, but I would like to tell, there may be some students over here, there are very, very four important parameters, 4Ds I tell to my students: dedication, devotion, determination, and discipline is very, very important for all the students if they really want to do something exciting into their own field. If they want to take up and accept the challenge of imparting the knowledge in the interdisciplinary area, they have to imbibe this 4D, that is dedication, devotion, determination, and discipline. So definitely with this particular aspect, the students will be different tomorrow. They will be able to accept the challenges of tomorrow's world. We will be also creator of the technology like artificial intelligence, IoTs. Yes, I'm at the end. As far as IoT is concerned, Internet of Things, yesterday itself, we have joined hands with one startup company, which is done by a brilliant students from this area, and we have joined hands with them. We have established Center of Excellence in Sericulture, silk production. So in that particular area, our university is very strong, our teachers are very strong, and we have joined hands with them. So what they are doing is they have found out the problems that we are facing. Some students, they found out our problems that we are facing in the field of sericulture. They came to us and they told us, sir, we can develop the technology so that you can monitor the plants in a better way, and you can monitor the production of sericulture in the better way, so that your efficiency of production will be increased by using our devices, which are IoT devices. So that is the main and good example of multidisciplinary education. These are the trends now in this particular research. Hardcore research is again very, very important, because whatever I'm telling you is by assuming that he or she, the student is very good in research. So research has to be there. So research is the main thing. Research is the basic thing that the students should know. Then only they can think of inventing something. They can think of becoming entrepreneurs. They can think of starting the startups, and they have to have research in the base. And therefore, research is very, very important. Every college and the university should undertake research, and should not only undertake research, but be expertise in this particular aspect. So, so today, there may be some master of arts students, MA students, or MCOM students. We give them master of arts, we give them master of commerce, but we tomorrow need not only masters, but we also need masterpiece in arts and commerce and interdisciplinary area. So, with this expectation, I thank um, Dr. Dr. Kamble sir, the principal of this college, for inviting me over here to deliver this inaugural speech. And with this speech, I also announce that this conference has been inaugurated, and it will be definitely fruitful and rewarding and cross-pollinating ideas of the students. So after, maybe if you have some slot, you can also organize some discussion session. Ask the students to speak, so they can ask the questions, and they can also cross pollinate the ideas. So everybody may have ideas, but cross pollination of the ideas are very, very important. And I hope that this conference will be very, very fruitful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Sir, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sir, you touched
Thank you,
various
sir.
problems or
Thank you.
challenges we are facing with our education. But the point to say and in proceed innovation apply uh, so teaching for uh, deliberations once again. Uh, on have more drive, more courage, and more passion about their area of research. They definitely have a more talent, more availability of resources, which they use to the fullest. The keynote speaker today is a living example of that. He possesses all the qualities mentioned above and excels in his work. His up-to-date knowledge and experience will definitely set the tone of this A seminar. May I request Mr. Abhijit Malunker to deliver his keynote, please? Mr. Abhijit Malunker, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good
Uh,
afternoon.
Good afternoon. So I need to share my slides. So is it possible for me to share it from here, or can I just share my screen? What should be the best mode? I think I can share my screen itself, right?
Yeah. It's better. It's better. I request all the participants to mute themselves.
Uh, are these slides visible?
Yes, sir.
अशोक
Yes.
बोलतोय,
Yes, sir.
माझा मोबाईल एंगेज आहे, ऑनलाईन कार्यक्रम चालू आहे माझा.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. कृपया तुमचे मोबाईलचे हे बंद ठेवा, म्यूट करा स्वतःला. सगळ्यांनी म्यूट करा प्लीज. येस सर, मालुमकर सर, यू आर विजिबल.
Good morning, everyone. All the dignitaries.
Okay.
So I'll begin with my presentation. So first of all, good morning, everyone. All the dignitaries present in this meet. Hello.
Yes, sir, you go on.
So first of all, I would like to wish So basically, so good morning, everyone. First of all, good morning to all the dignitaries present in this speech, uh, all the organizers and all the participants that are present in this seminar. Uh, so my name is Abhijit Mahalunkar. I'm from TU Dublin. So basically, when I was when Madam Madhuri and Dr. I was actually
I request all the participants to mute themselves. Please mute yourself. Mr. Pratap, please mute yourself. Mr. Pratap, please mute yourself.
সাউন্ড নেই কেন?
अरे आप साउंड बंद करो अपना, माइक म्यूट करो. Please go on, Malunkar sir.
okay. So when I was actually approached, to talk to present a talk for this seminar, so basically my area of expertise is artificial intelligence. So for me, addressing a talk for a general, research community, I was finding it a bit difficult because I had to first narrow down all the aspects of my talk that I have to present. But then I actually started thinking about this talk, and I figured out that there are various aspects of research that are fairly common between uh, you know all the streams. Uh, so my talk is not going to be about the specific methodology that exists, in different research domains, but it's more to do with how the research is presented. How do we what has happened over last few years? How there has been a shift in the perception and the methods of how people start the research, present the research, popularize the research. Because as a researcher, I think it's as a research student, doing your research, having a problem, solving it is the most fundamental aspect of your research life. But if what you're doing is not being seen by other people, if you don't have a presence online, if you don't have a community interaction, then that research loses a great deal of significance. So my research topic is going to be around that. So my research theme would be research communication and how do we do publication in this in current times. So last 10 years, we have seen a drastic shift in how we conduct uh, uh, research as as collaborations, as how we do publications, how do we do open research, how we publicize our research. So initially, back in the days, it used to be people used to attend conferences, meet people, find like-minded research people, and then you would collaborate. But the disadvantage of that is something fairly simple: is your scope of understanding or your scope of knowledge would be limited to how many people you meet in person or how many papers you read, and that kind of limits one's ability to actually figure out what different areas of research or what different strands of research domain that exists. Maybe in a specific research area, there might be people working on different aspects of research, and they might align with your research, which you may actually find useful for your own research. So, being an early stage researcher, I started my research in 2016. I was introduced to these things right away. So I saw, I actually started when these things were beginning. So something like finding research collaborators. So if I'm actually working on a specific topic, I would need to find a lot of research collaborators when I say that I need to find people who are working in the similar domain, who are doing similar work that I'm doing, but not exactly the same, so that I can get inspired by them. So one of the best way to do that is use social media. Uh, this is how we do things now. Back in the days, it used to be you actually read a paper, you find out what is happening, you attend conferences, you meet people. That's still happening even as we go. But the major emphasis right now is put on social media. We actually have courses on how to publish and how to use social media for research. So uh, I'm actually taking a page from that book itself. So first is a massive use of Twitter as a platform. So most of the researchers are on Twitter, and they're continuously tweeting about what they are doing, what are the new updates of their research, and this is a constant thing. So I follow a lot of researchers in my area. Every area will have their prominent researchers who are out there and who are continuously tweeting about what work they are doing, what are they presenting, where the talks are being held. So this becomes a very important aspect of finding people or finding like-minded researchers around globally or around you. So when you're aware of people who are around you, it becomes easy for you to then uh, channel your uh, uh, channel your research problem itself. Sometimes we have a research problem. Sometimes we realize that research problem might not have a specific solution, or there might be some difficulty in that particular problem which may not be addressable. But there might be somebody working on that specific problem itself. And to basically find out what's happening, Twitter is one of the best way, which basically which at least I figured out. So I can actually tell you an example of my research itself. So I was working on an area called as formal language theory, and I needed to find some codes to basically figure out how to design these. It's a computer program that can generate all these grammars for me. Now, that computer program was not my area of expertise, and without that computer program, I could not have done what I did later. So my first instinct was go on Twitter, put the keyword of formal language theory, or at least go through profiles of many people, and then figure out who is actually working very closely in this area. And based on that, I actually figured out there was this guy. His name was Eanes Avku. He's from New York University. And we just happened, and I just texted him over there on Twitter itself. I told him, my name is this. I'm actually working on this area. I happen to read your tweets. I read your paper. Would it be easy? Would it be okay for you to share your codes with me? And we'll have a mutual citation. I'll cite your paper, and then you cite my paper, and then we'll have a sort of a mutual understanding. And then he said, yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine. And this is how I was actually able to get a piece of my research pipeline by not investing a whole lot of my time. Because if I had to sit there and write that particular piece of code, which was of no significant impact to my specific research, that would have taken me a lot of time. But just because there was access to Twitter, there was access to a lot of social things, I was able to basically fit that maze, that piece in my research puzzle. So that's an example of how people can use Twitter to basically find research collaborators. Another thing is using Reddit. Reddit is this platform for sharing ideas, and it's basically like a chat community where there is a topic and people discuss that topic. So I published a paper of mine, and when I published my paper, I was not checking Reddit, but I think after a month or two, I just happened to see what my paper is doing, and I just happened to search my paper, and this thing came up. So if people can see this to the left, so to the right, that's basically my the name of my paper. It's Understanding Recurrent Neural Architectures by Analyzing and Synthesizing Long Distance Dependencies in Benchmark Sequential Datasets. So that was my paper. And somebody else, and this is without my knowledge, somebody else was actually discussing my paper. And there were a lot of comments on that paper. So if you see the comments down there, people would say it's an interesting read. And there were a lot of suggestions that were given to me on this paper without my knowledge. So when I actually went back and checked this particular Reddit, I realized that I could actually improve my research by following or by just looking for resources, especially on the Reddit, because what happens on the Reddit is there are a lot of researchers who are continuously streaming through the data. They are basically reading new papers, they're discussing about it, and then there are people who are even commenting on it, and not just randomly commenting, but actually giving you constructive comments. So if somebody is, if people are reading this, there are actually people who suggested me, suggested the author of the paper that I should have tried this, or I should have tried something else. This may seem better, or that may seem better. So what happens is, when you have this sort of collaboration, this is more like a unknown collaboration. I actually actively didn't look out for these people, but just because my paper was out there in the online domain, people were just talking about it, they were commenting on it, and this happens to be a very good source for me to further my research experiments, and then look out for other things. And based on these inputs, I was actually able to run some more experiments and get a better handle or understanding of my research. So Reddit is one of the places where people should be looking at potential collaborators if you are interested in any area. So they have tags which you could be following. So I usually follow tags of machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning, or mathematics, all these type of tags. So anybody who is actually interested in a specific research area should be following these tags, so that they would get continuous updates on who is posting things, how things are, who is commenting on certain aspects of things, what papers are, what important papers people are talking about. So what happens is, when you're aware of who is talking about certain areas, who is commenting on those topics, it's easy for you to realize that that particular strand of research is gaining more popularity. So one of the things that's important is, and what happens is, these platforms provide you a sort of a guideline as which areas are gaining popularity and which areas are currently dormant. So the areas which are being talked about a lot, these are the areas which people are continuously commenting on, posting about. So as a researcher, or as a research student, or as a PhD student, or even as a master student, if you want to align your research, or if you want to align your career in something that's more popular, because popular areas of research get good funding, so these are the best ways to find out which area is actually popular. What happens within an academic community, or let's say a conference is always neutral to popularity. A conference is would basically accept papers based on the academic merits of a particular paper, or a research conference would be highly objective, or it would be non-partial to what is the funding status of that particular research area, all that of things. Whereas such platforms like Reddit and Twitter, they actually tell you which areas of research are actually gaining more traction compared to other areas of research. And accordingly, then you can decide whether you want to stay in that specific area or you want to move to some other area. Because there are, so even when I started my research is not exactly a popular research. So I was very well aware of that when I started my research. And that's exactly why I chose that research, because I wanted to work on a very fundamental aspect of a problem. And generally, fundamental aspects of problems are not the popular ones. Popular ones are more application oriented, because that's where people can deliver you good funding, and you have collaborations with industry, and all sorts of things. So these sort of platforms like Twitter or Reddit, even LinkedIn for that matter, I have actually mentioned LinkedIn over here, will help you figure out how many people are working on a particular problem, and then how many people are actually using these tools to, let's say, solve those problems. Now, another place where you would find a lot of research collaborators are YouTube. Fairly unconventional place, but it's highly effective. So what happens is, current trend of research and research publication tends to people actually putting out research videos. So let's say if I have developed a new algorithm, I would actually make a YouTube video out of it and I would share it. And what happens is, there are so many researchers out there who are actually putting the content on YouTube, and based on what they are describing, how they are describing the problem, and you can actually see them talk, you would be able to figure out whether he's an expert in that area or not. So based on that, you can actually decide who can be a good collaborator for you. So if you have a problem, if you can find a video about that specific research problem on YouTube and somebody is doing a very good job at explaining it, there's a good chance he can provide you a lot of guidance on that particular topic, because he's an expert in that area. Otherwise, you would not be able to, put a very informative video on YouTube. The other aspect, or the other way this is very new and currently, like trending right now, is social audio apps. So Reddit happens to be a place where people come and they chat about it, but in text form. There are apps that are coming up. There are Twitter has its own social commentary app. Clubhouse is another app. Reddit has its own thing going on right now. So these social audio apps are nothing but it's like a chat room, but where people can talk. So people can discuss their ideas. So I basically follow a lot of these audio apps where every evening people would just meet all over the world, and we would discuss a specific problem in a specific field. And that's how you build a rapport with all the other researchers out there, because that's more it's more like a personal relationship, because then you're actually talking to someone rather than more in a text form, or like you listening to somebody. So social audio apps are currently the best way to finding good research collaborators, or getting your idea, that kick, that initial acceleration that it requires. Because initially, when you start with a problem, what happens usually is you are in a very narrow frame of mind, and you're trying to understand how to basically solve the problem. And then there are many people who have actually figured out how to go about it. Maybe not exactly the same problem, but similar problems. And when you listen to them, when you read about them, when you read their tweets, when you read the LinkedIn profile, it's more personal journey that you get to know their personal journey rather than a paper that they have written. Paper is a very I would say a very pruned experience of research. where you actually put in the research content itself, where you put your abstract, you put your methodology, results, conclusion, that's it. What you lack is the journey. What uh, how much he has invested his time, what difficulties he faced while conducting that particular research. That's completely lost in academic conferences. And that's actually more important than the research itself, because it's very easy for anyone to just read a piece of paper and say, okay, I have to do this, this, this. But when you actually start implementing it, and as a researcher, everyone faces this, if you want to recreate the experiments of the same paper, it's not as easy as the way it is presented in the paper. It's very easy to read a paper, but it's extremely difficult to recreate the same experiments, because then you would run into issues of, you might not have a specific library in your computer program. You might require a different operating system for that computer program, or you might require a specific tool for, to conduct that specific, experiment. And these things are nuances. And if you don't have them, uh, it doesn't matter what is the conclusion, you'll never be able to recreate that experiment. And if you can't recreate the experiment, uh, that's the big bottleneck for you. Because if you can't recreate it, you can't expand on that research. And that's why, social media or YouTube, even Clubhouse or, chat platforms, they give you that access to that particular researcher who had actually conducted these things, ran into problems, solved those problems, and was able to finally deliver a good research and a good paper. So uh, the journey of research is more important than the final result of the research, because if you can understand the journey, you would be able to understand the problems that lie on that journey, the uh, the difficulties or the issues that are that are simply there. And if you have a more personal connect with the researcher or the collaborator, using a mass platform where everyone can talk about things, that's the best. So this is the current trend of research collaboration, which basically when I entered research, I found it extremely helpful. Uh, it would have been extremely difficult for me if I didn't have these tools at my disposal. So, I mean, it's actually a thing that people should start using more and more often. So, from research collaboration, I think I would want to move to the next topic, which is which makes research. There's been uh, a huge uh, there's been a trend in terms of a complete 180-degree trend in terms of publications. So generally, the publication process used to be, you have a very secret draft, you send it to a particular conference or a journal, and you have secret reviews, you have a double blind or single blind reviews. The paper is accepted, and either it's accepted or rejected, and that's the journey of the paper. If it's rejected, it comes back to you, you make changes, it goes back again. But in that time frame, which is a very lengthy time frame, what happens is your research is kind of hidden. People are not aware of exactly what you're doing. And in that process, what can happen is there could be somebody else who started later than you and could actually, who would actually be able to get it published before you. And that time frame is of significance. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people over here are aware, but there are, these preprint servers. For science and technology, we use something called as archive. It's mentioned over here, it's archive.org. And for social sciences, I found it's SOC archive. So what happens with these preprint servers is you have a full draft of the paper. It's in almost final completion. And then you put your paper out there. Now, having said that, these are not published papers. So you won't be able to get any academic points from this. But you can always make people aware of what you're working with. And that's, I think, is like the biggest problem in the research is if you keep your research hidden for far too long, there's a good chance somebody else would be actually working on it and would actually deliver better result. So getting your paper in its best draft and getting it out there is probably one of the best things one can do. Simply because if you have good results and if you've used good methodology, and if it's the same paper that has gone in for, let's say, that has gone in for a review or a journal review, there's a good chance that there wouldn't be very significant changes in the paper itself. So this is in its almost final result, or final draft of the paper. Good thing about these preprint servers is most of the conferences in the world and most of the journals don't mind these preprint papers being out there, which means your review process would not be affected by them. But at the same time, you get popularity because that paper is out there. Again, I can give you my personal experience. So when I wrote my first paper, so the same paper, the Reddit that I showed, was actually of my archive before it went into publishing. So I had put the paper up on archive, and people actually started reading that paper, and they actually started commenting on it. People actually found it interesting. I think I received emails from people. I think I got an email from a very big scientist in NYU, New York University. He is currently the Facebook's lead researcher. So his team actually sent me an email telling me that, oh, they read my paper. They were very excited to read my paper, and it's going in the right direction. So what happens is it actually gives you that confidence that whatever you're doing is in the right path. So that early boost is very important, because what happens is if you don't have that early boost, you would lose interest in conducting that research. And what happens with preprint servers is they give you that early boost. Once you have a paper in its almost final draft, when it's out there, people are reading it, and people are continuously going through. There are a lot of people who are continuously going through all the new papers that keep popping up on archive or SOC archive. I do myself. Every week I go through a list of papers that are that are published on archive, and I go from there. Actually, to be very to give you another example, one of the highly cited papers in computer science, in the area of computer vision, it got the paper was, I think, on ResNets. It's a type of a neural architecture. So the paper was published on archive before it went into a conference review, but the paper got more than 10,000 citations before it was published. I mean, the paper was that impact. The paper had that impact on the community that it actually had like a significant amount of citations even before it got published. And of course, when it got published, it won the best paper award and all that. But that's the impact. So from the time it went on archive to the time it actually got published, the time difference was around 6 to 7 months. And within 6 to 7 months, a lot of people actually found this paper extremely useful. And a lot of people who are actually relying on this sort of research had their research time cycle improved by 6 months. Because if this paper had come out 6 months down the line, a lot of people who cited this paper would have to wait 6 months for similar paper to come, or for this paper to come, because they would have no better research to cite or better research to look at. So in a way, it actually advances the research timeline. It improves the research timelines for the entire community. Having said that, there are papers as well over there which people just put up on archive, which are not that significant or not that good. Again, that's I would use an example of evolution then. Weak papers get lost even on archive. They would not be cited. Nobody would read them. It would just be like one one line in that list of papers. A good paper will get noticed and will get cited. A bad paper on a preprint server would not be looked at. So there is a natural evolutionary aspect to this, to these publications as well. So yeah, so that's about the how publications are happening currently. I would strongly advise people, if people are not aware of archive or SOC archive, to actually start paying attention to them, as these are if you have a draft and you're working on a draft, it's actually good to put your name out there with the draft, so that people are at least aware of what you're working with, rather than waiting for a review process that can last for 6 months to 1 year. So then you can actually have advanced your, or improved your research timeline itself. Again, you don't get any academic credits for paper on archive, so that's another thing to look at. But if your paper is in a very good draft, just put it up on archive, and you would get a lot of feedback on that paper from archive. So moving from publications, I would like to talk about the whole aspect of open research. Now, this is a very new thing that's happening in the research. A lot of papers are being peer reviewed in a single blind or double blind way, and the review processes is generally a secret process. It's within the conference. The reviews are only made public to the author. And what happens because of that is the whole aspect of open research itself is lost. So to counter that, there's a movement that's happening right now in the research community. It's called open review. AI is one of the pioneers in that. We have actually a lot of conferences that are on open review. Now, the concept of open review is simple. You submit a paper to a conference. The reviews are also public. So reviewers are reviewing your paper publicly. So when they provide a review, it's on the website and it's for everyone to see what reviews are being used to review. Even readers can review in committee, but you can then decide, or it's possible for people to see what sort of reviews their paper have got. So just like how you get feedback on archives in a non-traditional way, open review is more like a structured way of getting reviews for your paper. And also it's an open way of for anyone to see what the reviewers have said about it. Because sometimes reviews can be biased. Sometimes reviews can be funding oriented. Sometimes it could be. Sometimes people don't. Sometimes it's just miscommunication that has happened in the paper, and that has caused a bad review, or has caused a different sort of review than you expected. So it's possible for people to correct those those reviews, or the whole process of reviewing. So currently the trend of reviewing is going towards open review. I think right now, if you go on this website, there are at least 20 conferences that are following this open review pattern. One of the biggest conferences in AI, ICLR, started this open review process, and ICLR is like the one of the upper echelons of this review process, of AI conferences, where we would have Google as funding. Google provides millions of dollars of funding for this particular conference. So I think it's a good thing for I mean, I know a lot of a lot of university professors are also around here. So if people want to organize research in and want to accept papers, it's very good to actually have an open review sort of process. You can integrate open review in your conference itself. So that's a new trend that we see in the current research space. Moving from there, another aspect is publicizing your research, and this is where I personally would like to, focus more. And this is actually like, I was talking about initially is we do a lot of hard work. We have good results. If it is just and then we publish a paper, and that's the end of the research cycle, but it should not be. Uh, Research paper is a very difficult piece of text for common people to read. With that, when I say is, I have written so many papers which are extremely difficult for somebody who's not from my domain to actually get the grasp of what is happening. And because of that, what happens is that particular research gets into obscurity. Not a lot of people are aware of what is happening in that specific field of research. Initially, there used to be like, 10 years back or 15 years back, there used to be conferences and people used to hold a lot of talks. Again, the problem with that method is your reach. How many people can you, have in your audience? Probably 100, 200, and usually this audience is mostly informed audience who are already aware of your research. But for research, it's very important that it goes out to common people and they're aware of actually what's happening, so that it's palatable for them, for common public to actually know what's happening, so that they know what new things are happening, to be inspired by that, to the fact that, let's say you want to publicize your research to a school student who has to take a decision on joining research community, or who wants to shape his own career. It's very difficult, because when I was in 12th standard, or when I was doing my first or second year of engineering, it was extremely difficult for me to find resource articles. The only way for me was to read an academic paper, and these papers were extremely difficult to read. Because the kind of knowledge that I need to read a paper, because now when I write a paper with a certain expectation that the reader should have minimum certain knowledge while reading the paper, which means that it's a very high bar for somebody who is actually, a very early stage of his education to actually start reading these papers. Which is why it's very important that research should be made as accessible as possible. So the best way for that is social media. So what happens on social media is, when I publish a paper, I basically write a small explanation about the paper, or I tweet about it, that okay, I have published this paper in this particular area. If somebody is interested, please read about it. This is a trend now, and everybody is doing it. It's actually not a trend; it's a mandate right now, because coming from a European university, we have a mandate to tweet about all our research activity. If I'm presenting a paper, I have to tweet about it and use the hashtags of my university and the funding agency. When I publish a paper, I have to tweet about it. I have to put a photo of me presenting the paper. So all these things have to be done, and now they're done as a mandate, so that people are aware of what new things are happening. Then there are ways to get your very sophisticated and very complicated article written out for masses, and that's done using blogging websites. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people are aware that medium.com is one of the best way to find a lot of articles where we have actually, the author can actually write his own research work in a more palatable form for general masses. And this is a trend that we see now, is that the more articles you have as a researcher on Medium, the more funding you will get. It's like some sort of a unknown confounding factor in funding right now, because as a funding agency, they would want their research, as a funding agency, you want popularity for your institution, the one who's funding you. And if your only method of publicizing research is going to a conference and presenting a paper, that's not a good return on investment even for the funding agency, because they are visited only, they would be known only in the academic circles. But if a researcher with a specific funding, if he's writing a lot of blogs, if they are communicating their research to general masses, they know that that name, the funding name, will get out there. That's why Google funds a lot of people who are on Medium, because they know that these researchers can actually get the name of Google or Facebook out there to general public and make it a popular movement. That's exactly why now the trend is every big conference that's in AI specifically, or even in normal computer, in the computer research domain, it's covered. Like, let's say there's NeurIPS, there is ICLR, there is Infocom. Whenever these conferences happen and whenever any papers are published in these big places, there is a popular magazine that covers them. So I have seen articles in a lot of American popular magazines, which generally publish, let's say, normal articles, like tabloid articles, or it's like a normal magazine where they publish all the other stories, like politics or sports or events that are happening around. Last 2-3 years, we have seen these magazines publishing articles, maybe from Medium, or the author itself writes an article of their paper, which was published at these big conferences for that particular magazine. And that's a really good way for you to, for the researcher and for the funding agency to get a name out there. That's why Google is getting so much of investments in terms of their AI research, because they are making it sound as if they are doing tremendously amazing work in popular masses. That's why common people know about Google. There are so many funding agencies around the world. Not all these funding agencies are popular among people, but people know Google, people know Facebook, and this is one way where they can actually, deliver that. They can get the popularity. Again, social media, social audio apps are another way of communicating and publicizing your research. As a researcher, you can go into these chat rooms and you can talk to people and then discuss what you are talking about. Other thing is having a personal website. So I have my personal website, which basically describes all my work that I have been doing, all my talks that I have given, all the papers that I have published. Extremely important to maintain a personal website. Another thing that's extremely, extremely important, and it's trending right now, is having search engine optimization. People, when we start looking for research, what you do is you Google for it. You just go open Google and you type what you want. So my research is long distance dependency and neural networks. If you type these two words, if you type these two phrases in Google, the first 2 or 3 links, one of these first 2 or 3 links is my paper. And what happens is anybody who's looking at long distance dependency or who's working in long distance dependency or neural networks, and they've put these two phrases, they see my paper, which means that they know I am doing research in that particular area. And that gives me that reach. So somebody who is new to this domain, who wants to enter this domain, if the first 2 or 3 links he sees is somebody's paper, he thinks that particular person is an authority in that area. With long distance dependency and neural networks, I think one of my paper is in the top 3 or 4 links. That gives me, that basically gives people the feeling that I have, that I'm actually doing some great work. And that's how they start following my work. And that's exactly why, you have a lot of profile visits, and then you would have a lot of citations. And that's one great way of publicizing your work. And of course, there are other ways of, you should have your Google Scholar profile, your ORCID, your academia profiles, and, so many other ways of actually staying up in the search engine, in Google search engine. Even if you Google my name, just my name, the first 10 or 20 links are all about my papers. which means that if somebody is searching specifically even for my name, they would actually know what research I'm doing. And it's very important for any researcher that even that it's important that they publicize their research. It's uh, it's very it's kind of unfair as a researcher when you do so much hard work and people don't know about it. And the best way to get out of that is use all these tools to basically have to publicize your research, to get your name out there, and and do amazing work, and that actually gives you boost to do more and more good work. If you don't get noticed, if you don't get uh, the necessary credit for your early stage work, it basically demotivates a researcher in actually furthering the research, furthering his research career. So I think this is one area which I specifically and I personally spend a great time in. Uh, like this is like an example of my tweet that I had to make as a compulsion. This is like a mandate now. We have to post something about us, the papers that we present. Uh, yeah, and I think with that, I'm going to conclude my talk. I think I've exceeded my time limit. And thank you for inviting me. And I feel honored that I was made part of this. And if any questions, I would love to address them.
Thank you, Abhijit sir. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions to ask him? If you want to ask something, you may, or maybe you may always go to his website abhijitm.com and ask him questions about whatever queries you have about his research. I know him personally, and I know that he loves research, and he will be happy to help anybody whenever they get. Uh, I comprehensive note. It was a very comprehensive keynote, and it will be very useful to all the researchers in their study. You talked about the practical challenges and as well as the pragmatic solutions to those challenges. You talked about research collaboration, publication, open research conference, publishing research, to people. So was very comprehensive and well prepared presentation. Research trends in which globally across uh, what these changes in very small in the administration, infrastructure, in plan. So the period of
See a lot of questions. I think there are a lot of hand raised. I
yes.
would love to answer them if there are any.
I haven't got any. I haven't got any queries. I don't think I have checked, but there are none. Thanks a lot. There are many thanks for your valuable guidance. There is one more thanks a lot, sir, but there is not a query. So may I request sir to give his
Hello, hello, madam.
Ha. Yes.
Madam, I can't listen you.
Okay.
You are not audible. Madam, you are not audible.
uh, 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 okay. Am I audible now, sir?
Now you are audible.
Okay, fine. I don't know what happened with my earphones, but okay. Once again, I thank Abhijit Malunker sir and for a very comprehensive and excellent presentation on the most recent trends in research. And I now ask Principal Dr. P.D. Kamble sir to give his chairman's address.
Thank you, madam. Rajarshi Shahu, Arts and Commerce College, Rukadi. Jyotikaran Publication and Rotary Club of Itzelkaranji Central, Arai District 3170, jointly organized this one-day multidisciplinary international e-conference on threats in research. Honorable Dr. P.S. Patil, Pro-Vice Chancellor, Shivaji University, Kolhapur. He is the inaugurator of our the seminar, e-seminar. Keynote addresser, Mr. Abhijit Malunker, research scholar in deep learning, Technological University, Dublin, Ireland. Dr. Uttam Patil, Dr. Madhavi Solankurkar, my dear friends and participants. At first, thank you very much, Dr. P.S. Patil, sir, Vice Chancellor. He has expressed his deep views on research, new idea about the research. He has explained, he has to present it. The present era is a delightful digital era, which is very important in research. He has given us many idea about the research. He mentioned Itzelkaranji Textile City and what here about that the research area and how research is very important in the recent days. He has to present it. He has given his best wishes to our the seminar. He mentioned research is a material instinct which can be found in each and every living being on this planet. It is a never-ending process, according to Dr. P.S. Patil, sir. Here, the word research is made of two components. Re means again, and search means to find out or discover. The two words is very explained the exact meaning about the researcher. So research is an activity that leads us to find out new fact, information, assist us in verifying the valuable knowledge. Our seminar is a humble attempt to consider the trends and eras in research across the disciplining with an aim to ensure a good quality research. Malunker sir has given us his idea about traits in research very fantastically with the PPT. Sir, very nice. I understand about your views on traits in research. Fantastically presented, sir. On the behalf of my college, I congratulate you about your knowledge on the research. I'm also thankful to Dr. P.S. Patil, sir, the Pro-Vice Chancellor for our college, our university. He inaugurated our the seminar. Thank you very much to all of you to join our seminar. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you, sir. Now, for closing this inauguration session, I request Professor Dr. G.R. More to give the vote of thanks. Dr. G.R. More, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. All the dignitaries on the virtual platform of the 1-day multidisciplinary international seminar on trends in research, jointly organized by the Accuracy and Research Committee of Rajarshi Shahu Arts and Commerce College, Rukadi. Jyoti Kiran Publication, Pune and Rotary Club of Eastern Central. I am Professor Dr. Girish More. I am over here to present vote of thanks for inaugural function of the e-seminar. In the beginning, I thank our patrons, Honorable Dr. Srimati Nevita Mane Vaidi Sahib and Honorable MP Dr. Dharish Mandala for encouraging us to organize the seminar. On behalf of the organizing committee, I am thankful to Honorable Professor Dr. P.S. Patil, Pro-Vice Chancellor of Shivaji University Kolhapur, for inaugurating the seminar and guiding the participants. I am sincerely grateful to Mr. Abhijit Malunker for delivering the keynote address and making the participant know about research abroad. I thank our Principal Dr. Prashant Kumar Kamble sir for his support to the organizing committee to organize such a wonderful seminar. I thank you all the participants. Lastly, I thank Mr. Dr. Uttam Patil sir, who is convener of the seminar. Thank you all. Thank you very much, and all the convener. Thank you.
Yes. Hello. Hello. Good afternoon.
पाटील सर शेजारचा मोबाईल
Yeah.
बंद करा. शेजारचा मोबाईल बंद करा.
हो तुमचा मोबाईल बंद करा. म्यूट करा.
तुमच्यापासून गाडी तुमच्यापासून
10 मीटर लांब पाहिजे. बाहेर जावायचे. हॅलो. Good afternoon. I hope I am audible now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. With the end of the inaugural session and with the scholarly guidance of Pro Vice Chancellor Professor Dr. P.S. Patil and the keynote speaker Mr. Abhijit Malunker, we now start the first plenary session of this international multidisciplinary e-seminar on trends in research. This is a wonderful session. For this session, I invite and welcome my friend and a expert researcher, Professor Dr. Sanjeev Kumar. He is the resource person of this session and he will deliberate. He will guide all the participants on a very, very important issue in the area of research, that is emerging trends in literary research and methodology. I welcome Professor Dr. Mahasa Moksagan to chair the session. So, I hope Mahasa Madam, hello Mahasa Madam, hello Professor Sanjeev Kumar Sir ji.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Professor Sanjeev Kumar Sir ji. Hello.
Yes.
Hello Sanjeev. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, may I invite Dr. Madhavi Swaranpurkar to introduce the resource person and chairperson of the session. Dr. Madhavi Swaranpurkar, madam.
Thank you, sir. This is Madhavi Solankurkar, and it's great pleasure for me to introduce two very excellent academicians who are to be our resource person in this session. The first one is Dr. Sanjeev Kumar, who comes from the Department of English and Foreign Languages. School of Humanities and Social Sciences from the Central University of Haryana. The area of interest of Sir Sanjeev Kumar is post-colonial literature, diaspora studies, Dalit and subaltern issues. The topic of his PhD research is shifting paradigms of diasporic ambivalence in V.S. Naipaul's fiction. He has in all 21 years experience in his name. He has 21 research publications, 1 book, 2 policy papers, and 5 chapters in books. There are 13 MPhil students who has taken the degree under his supervision, and there are 6 PhD students. Besides that, he has presented and presented 50 papers in various national, international conferences, seminars, etc. And besides that, he had shouldered the responsibilities of around 19 various positions in various places. So I welcome him on behalf of our college as well as on behalf of our institution, the Balasaheb Mane Education Trust. The other person, Dr. Masa Moshfegyan, who is the chairperson of this session, is a lecturer in Salahuddin University Language Center, Erbil, Iraq, and who also has a very great experience of working at various places under various positions. She researches in difficulties in learning language, English as a second language, teaching of English, and ELTS. She is an expert in Persian, Turkish, Kurdish, English, and Arabic. So we have a multilingual personality here. Besides this, she is a computer wizard who has 8 publications on her name. She has given presentations in 9 conferences and seminars. She has organized 9 workshops and seminars of national and international level, and she has worked on around 13 professional committees in her life. Besides that, she has done volunteer work, she has edited books, she is giving training in the development training courses. She also has a very big biodata, which is impossible to go through in this very short time. But I welcome Dr. Masa in this session as a chairperson on behalf of my college as well as the institution to which we belong to. I welcome you all along with the RPs and chairperson, and I give this over to Dr. Uttam Patil sir.
Thank you, madam. Now, may I request Professor Dr. Sanjeev Kumar sir to share his views on emerging trends in literary research and methodologies. Sir, please.
Thanks a lot, Madhvi ji, Uttam ji. Honorable Professor Dr. P.S. Patil ji, Vice Chancellor. Keynote Speaker Abhijit Mahalunker ji. Dr. Prashant Kumar Kamble, Principal of the Institute. Dr. Madhvi ji, Dr. Uttam ji, and entire organizing team from the college. All the collaborators and organizers. And of course, participants from India and abroad. First of all, I express my hearty gratitude to the organizers, particularly my friend Uttam Patil ji, who gave me this opportunity to interact with you all on such a dynamic topic, dynamic because it is ever changing, on such a dynamic topic as emerging trends in literary research. I also welcome and I also compliment the chairperson of this session, and with her permission, I would like to start with my presentation. When we talk about trends in literary research, let's not talk about emerging trends. When we talk about trends in literary research, then of course we are all the time confused. Because if we go back to the past, then we see that 2-3 decades back, this was the time when every second researcher used to think of one or other sort of identity crisis. Then, of course, there was a time when researchers were all the time after diaspora writers, particularly after that very phenomenal event which occurred when V.S. Naipaul was, of course, recognized with Nobel in literature. And of course, with the Booker of Bookers to Salman Rushdie and all. Then we were passionately after diaspora and diasporic studies. Then there was a time in late 90s and of course early decade of this very millennium when we started talking about everything post-colonial and postmodern. And of course now, after traversing the journey of so many researches, multitude of researches on such important issues like partisan studies, feminism, identity crisis, existentialism, theories or no theories, diaspora or no diaspora. Right? Now we are again at a juncture when we keep on pondering as to what sort of newness and freshness should be imparted to the research and literature. And then, of course, when we ponder over this issue while we discuss with our researchers as to what is the suitable topic for the researcher so that it remains relevant by the time he or she enters the professional field, then of course we always think that despite thousands and thousands of researches on those old topics, they remain important. They remain important this way or that way. And there are so many things which remain unexplored, which remain unresearched, even in those topics which we call as mainstream literature or mainstream writers or writers from mainstream British literature or American literature. And that's why most of the time it happens that we teachers, we simply to maintain the relevance of the research for that very researcher while he or she enters the professional field, we generally feel it risky or consider it risky to propose or to recommend any such topic which has not seen many researches on that very aspect, because there is a fear. And of course, the researcher is always vulnerable and researcher is always uncertain. And that's why we generally don't take the venture to enter into something entirely new. And that's why there is a mix of old and new, tradition and individual talent. And in our own ways, we make it an innovation. In our own ways, we make it an innovation, either by connecting some new trend to something historical or something mainstream or something which has already been researched in many different forms. Like, for example, today itself, there was a viva of a university. And the researcher was presenting her viva on the topic, which was largely based on new woman. Now, this new woman, this is again a ticklish phrase. It is very, very ticklish phrase because this concept of new woman, it is very old concept. And nobody knows as to which new woman we are talking about. Are we talking about new woman of those days when Alan Showalter talked about 3 phases of feminism, or we are talking about that new woman which was anticipated by Helen Sixers, okay, when she gave the term a creature, okay, a creature. And or we are talking about that new woman which has been made popular through post-feminism and many other trends of feminism, including Me Too movement. Now even Me Too movement has become an old trend. It has lost that sheen. It has lost that sheen, and of course there are many new things emerging every next day, which we need to consider while we talk about any concept related to new woman, identity of new woman. Because, of course, every new day we are coming across many different phenomena. And this is one example. Similarly, for example, when this Supreme Court verdict came on transgenders, and they were given the identity of third gender. Okay, then of course there was the wave of researches on transgender studies here in India, particularly Indian universities. And of course, when everything is, when anything is like in excess, then charm is lost. Then the charm is lost, seriousness is lost, rigorosity is lost. And now there is a time when even those who are seriously interested in transgender, they have started connecting transgender to historical aspects, either to Mughal period or literature of medieval India, or to something else coming from those literatures which are studied and researched in isolation many decades back. And this is how no pure transgender study. And this is important, no doubt this is important, because it is always good to connect individual, as D.S. Eliot has said, individual means innovative with tradition. That's always good. But at the same time, we researchers of English studies, or we researchers of English departments, we need to keep our eyes open as to what new is happening in literary spheres. And that we can understand only when we are tuned with latest book reviews, latest publications, latest research articles, okay, and latest researches published across the universities there in India and outside. And for this, I find one magazine to be very important, particularly in Indian context, and name of the magazine is Book Review, The Book Review. And that book review, it comes out with book reviews on the latest writings in various disciplines, and that gives us an idea as to which direction publishing industry is headed to. And that's very important. And similarly, no doubt there are scores of very, very important journals and very, very important magazines which our researchers are generally suggested that yes, you should go for these when we are preparing for your research proposals. That's really important and always important. But yes, because here we have to talk about emerging trends. No doubt, mainstream literature, British literature, American literature, Indian literature, Indian writing in English, or whatever name you give to that literature which is now established literature, that remains important all the time. But at the same time, we need to be aware about certain trends which are now capturing the attention of the researchers across the board. And these are important. And these are directly related to sociological, social, political, international happenings taking place all over the world. Because literature in a way is manifestation of life. And it can't be viewed in isolation, and we can't separate one discipline from another, particularly when we are a good researcher in literature. We need to be informed about all the things happening around, then only we can come out with a good multidisciplinary literary research. That's very important. For example, last week only, there was a verdict from Supreme Court of America, and that verdict was against that the practice of abortion, right to abortion. Okay, and of course it was debated at large, and of course it was talked about by all the contemporary feminists, and of course there are different opinions on it. Now a person, a scholar, performing any literary study in feminism, he or she is required to know as to what are the different dimensions of this very, what you call as strategic policy decision coming out from a country which is otherwise considered as an advanced country. Okay, fine. Now, I don't know which country you call as advanced. One, like restricting this right of the woman on her body. Okay, another, of course, determining certain norms for women, okay, to live her life the way either the state wants her to live or the way she wants herself to live. And that's important. It's simply like an idea. Now, let's talk about some of the important trends which have really been considered as important across the universities, and these need appropriate attention of the researchers and the departments in the universities. One field that is now a very popular field, but of course it is generally people consider it as a misnomer, because that already happened. That happened already with a new name, okay, or with a different name. That happened already, and of course it has now got a new garb, and with the new garb, that field is now known as transnational studies. Transnational studies, earlier it used to be called as diaspora studies, okay, border studies or whatever, and now it has become very popular as transnational studies. No doubt there is a difference between diaspora and transnational, but still it seems to have taken the place of diaspora studies, though there is clear demarcation between the two spheres, but still it is taken as one. These two disciplines are taken as one, and now diaspora is generally substituted by transnational for many different reasons, okay, and that we can discuss later on in detail. Then, of course, LGBTQ. Now this acronym, it is also gaining multifarious dimensions. Okay, it started with gay studies, homosexual studies, lesbian studies, okay, then queer studies, and then of course queer subsuming everything, and now of course this acronym getting expanded all the time. Okay, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and many more. And it all depends on different dimensions of sexuality. And it means for this, sexuality, studies on sexuality are important, and they give you different dimensions of this LGBTQ, and also with the understanding that this term doesn't remain the same, it keeps on expanding with the new forms of sexuality coming in light. Then a new term came out 2-3 years back, and that term was post-truth. Like many other terms with post as the prefix, okay, post-feminism, post-structuralism, post-modernism, okay, similarly post-truth. And it also came into vogue, and of course people started studying literature from the perspective of, or through the lens of, what post-truth. And it also is one of the important field of study which is being taken by the scholars today. Then, no doubt, I don't know whether NEP 2020 or no NEP 2020, even prior to that, there was the trend to reread, rewrite, revisit the classical myths, or the myths in general. Okay, fine. This rewriting, revisiting, rereading, okay, and reimagining. This also became very popular. And it gave us an opportunity to go back and to view the history from today's perspective. From today's perspective. And for this very purpose, very, very important writers came into light, and they gave us some stuff to study so that we can substantiate our understanding of rewriting, revisiting, or rethinking, or whatever read. Okay, and Devdutt Patnaik is one in Indian context. Fine. Amish Tripathi is another in Indian context, and there are many now. And this is how this has also become a very, very important, prominent, and popular area of study now. Then, with popularity of Dalit studies, particularly in Indian context, and across the border also, because there are very good writings from across the border on Dalit literature and Dalit writings, and Dalit aesthetics also. And with this emergence of Dalit studies or literature, there was a trend with the name alternative aesthetics. No doubt, postmodernism and postmodern thinking also helped people realize as to how important it is to go for alternative. No doubt in that, but yes, Dalit literature and Dalit studies, they played very important role in establishing a new canon in aesthetics, which we generally call as alternative aesthetics. And for that, maybe Limbale's towards an aesthetic of Dalit literature, maybe Valmiki's Hindi version and the translated version, Dalit Sahitya ka Saundarya Shastra, and many other books which talk about an aesthetics which may not subscribe to the established norms of aesthetic understanding of literature, and that also became very important. When like Limbale talks about Satyam Shivam Sundaram and how he gives an important interpretation which may not agree with the existing norms of aesthetics, that also became important, and it is still important. Because now, with all post-colonial things happening around, it's not simply Dalit. Okay, it's tribal also, it's minority also, it's all other people whom we consider as subaltern. And for those researches on subaltern, this concept of alternative is very important. That's very important. Maybe you may give some credit to Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak also, who wrote the essay, Can the Subaltern Speak, and all these put together, all these post-colonial understandings put together, they gave rise to what an alternative aesthetics as an important viewpoint or perspective. Then, of course, with the postmodern, everything postmodern happening throughout the literary. Uttamji, there is.
Hello, Shankar sir. Mute kara, Shankar sir.
Now it is muted, sir. Now it's fine, sir. Now, next. Yeah, sure. Hindurao, sir, keep yourself muted for a while, sir, please. Sir, then a new concept became very popular in literary researches with that postmodern thought coming through Lyotard, and that thought was, of course, incredulity of meta-narratives. When this concept of incredulity of meta-narratives become popular, okay, when this concept became popular, there was a trend of researches in the field of mini-narratives. Which are closely related to these subaltern researches or researches on subaltern issues, maybe Dalit, maybe tribal, maybe minority, and maybe many others. And this incredulity of meta-narratives, it gave rise to a new field, which we call as mini-narratives. And mini-narratives also became very popular trend in the sphere of literary researches in India and abroad, and that's why researchers need to understand as to what are the implications and what are the prospective, what do you call as outcomes of researches if we go for mini or meta or mini against meta, mini against meta or whatever. Then, of course, with this subalternity taking place everywhere in every sphere of sociological thinking, there was the trend, and trend was, of course, to understand different groups of subaltern identity. And then, of course, it was also realized that differently abled or disabled, okay, these should also be recognized through literature and cinema. And then a new sphere emerged, a new concept emerged as very popular. There are many movies, there are many writings, and now it has become a full-fledged area of research, which we call as disability studies. And most of such studies are performed by the researchers through the study of literature with the help of cinema or vice versa. And there are some very, very interesting movies, okay, which give emphasis to disability studies. And whenever researchers research this area or on this area, then they happen to take clues from those movies also. Then again, one of the subaltern groups or subaltern identities is prostitute literature. Literature by prostitute, literature on prostitutes. And it has also now been taken as very important aspect of literary research. With this body politics coming in light through literatures and movies like Dirty Picture and all, and of course with all these LGBTQ and others coming into light, now sexuality, body politics, and then of course anything concerning the use of body by the individual, the way he or she likes it to be used, there is emphasis on prostitute literature also. And connected to it is literature on rape or rape narratives. Like there used to be studies on partisan narratives or narratives of partisan victims, maybe men or maybe women. Similarly now, if you Google it, you will find many writings with the title rape narrative or prostitute narratives. And it has also become one of the important emerging sphere for literary research. Then of course everybody knows it, but still it is important, which we call as blog literature, particularly for those who are interested in doing some research on short stories. They go for research on blog literature. Okay, it is particularly meant for short stories or memoirs, fine, or journalistic writings. And very much connected to this blog literature is electric literature. It is seemingly confusing, electric. But you simply Google it and you will find that there is an association, dedicated association, which promotes the writings, short story writings or short writings through blogging and other social media sites, and they give it the name as electric literature. It is also popular now, may not be for PhD research, but for many researches and many research projects, it is being carried out. Then campus novels. Campus novels, this is the time. Maybe you might have watched the movie Three Idiots, and many other movies and many other texts on or written by whom? By IITians and IIMians, and they have written about campus life. They have written about campus life and campus novel and campus fiction and campus stories. These are also now attracting the attention of the researchers. Then, of course, as usual, science fiction has always been important, no doubt. Okay, maybe with George Orwell giving it prominence. Okay, maybe with the movies like Chris and okay, there are many other movies. Maybe with all these movies, part 1, part 2, part 3 and all, and maybe with all cyberpunk coming in, maybe with all speculative fiction coming in, now researchers are performing researches on speculative fiction, cyberpunk, and of course, the mother of all these is science fiction. That remains important. And one thing that has emerged with the pandemic, that has been revived, it's not new, it's an old field, but it has now been revived, which we call as researches on pandemic literature. Researches on pandemic literature. Okay. We might have been oblivious about writings like Plague, writings like Love in the Time of Cholera. Okay, but now again, focus has shifted to pandemic literature with all these 2-3 years, which we have all experienced. Okay, with all caution and alarm, and now pandemic literature and researches on pandemic literature are again taking place as usual. Now, there is the revival of one more revival, I would say, because it has always been important, but still now it is, I have observed personally that now there are multitude of researches conducted on oral literature, particularly with emphasis on ethnicity, ethnic identity, maybe to focus on food, maybe to focus on dance forms, maybe to focus on dress forms, maybe to focus on other attributes of a culture. Oral literature is gaining a new shape. Oral literature is gaining a new shape, either to establish food identity of a tribe, okay, or ethnicity, or to establish the cultural attribute, a specific cultural attribute of a tribe or a minority, okay. And this is how oral literature, tribal literature, and of course folk tales, these are again gaining prominence. कपिल को अर्जेंट है yes please. Then concept of Goethe very much connected to comparative literature, which he named as Welt literature, world literature, Welt literature, if you remember. It is also gaining prominence with some other terminology. And of course, if you have read Goethe properly, then you will understand that Goethe considered world literature as important, but through comparison and translation. And that's why Institute of World Literature may be at Harvard University, okay, led by David Dombrowski and all. Fine. It is doing a yeoman's service to establish comparative literature and translation studies as evergreen and ever important disciplines to understand literary creations across the border, coming from different languages, different ethnicities, different cultures, okay, different other identity formations. And this is how world literature through comparative literature, world literature, through translation studies. Okay, this is also gaining prominence. Then one concept given by like Donna Haraway, and that concept is cyborg. Cyborg. We have already talked about blog literature, but this cyborg is something different. It talks about amplification of human prowess or human capacity or human potential with the intervention of ICT and of course technology. That is also getting prominence when we talk about body politics and all, and how a woman and feminism, it gets a new dimension with intervention of ICT, and how women empowerment and other forms of feminism, these are getting rather more important with intervention of ICT. And of course, this has nicely been elaborated by Donna Haraway in her text, and name of the text is Cyborg Manifesto. And there are like cyber literature and cyborg literature and cyborg as a medium to understand literature. Okay, that's important. Yeah, good, very good, very good. Cyborg similar to one in Matrix trilogy movie. Yes. Now, one more new term has come out, like sci-fi, science fiction, and there is a new term, and that is cli-fi. Cli-fi is climate fiction. Now, eco-criticism and eco-literature, these terms have been replaced by cli-fi, climate fiction. And of course, it is a new dimension of eco-literature and eco-criticism and environmental literature, and it is also being pursued for the higher researches in many universities. Then, no doubt, post-colonialism, it is an area which has been well researched. It has turned old, and most of the people, they feel like escaping this term, though they perform research on post-coloniality, but they avoid using the term post-coloniality. And for that, there are the new terms coming in, like resistance literature, protest literature. Okay? Resistance literature and protest literature, instead of calling the literature post-colonial literature, subversive literature, post-colonial literature, okay, or protest literature or resistance literature, these are always important because these protests and resistance started with the evolution of human history, and they are sure to happen maybe with the term post-coloniality or maybe with some other term, but they are sure to happen, and these are going to remain important forever. Okay, this protest may be by right against left, left against right, or right and left against center, but these protest and resistance, these are sure to happen, and that's why protest and resistance literature, these are also gaining prominence. Because I come from Central University, and there are many, many students from various different states. And there is a huge chunk of, or huge group of students from Kashmir. And I have observed that most of the students from Kashmir, if they are asked a choice, their first choice is trauma literature, or memory literature, or border literature. Fine. This trauma and memory may be in context of partition, maybe with reference to this Ukraine-Russia war, maybe with reference to World War I, World War II, maybe with reference to any civil war, or maybe with reference to Kashmir dispute. These are also important, and these are taken as very major aspects of literary research. Okay, and this is also one of the important research area. And with this trauma literature coming in as one of the important areas of research, there is one more area very much linked to trauma literature, particularly with reference to, again, I am citing the example of my Kashmiri students. And there are students who have the personal experience, maybe through their father, maybe through their neighbor, maybe through somebody around. And then they also talk about prison narratives. Prison narratives. Prison narratives are also equally important. And of course, researchers can explore the possibility to go for that. Then, biopic, no doubt, always important. Biopics are always important. Okay, means cinematic representation of somebody, some legend in any of the fields. There are the studies on biopics. Then, of course, there are always studies on autobiographical text and autobiographical movies. And these life writings, which we call as life writings, are always important, particularly for those whom we consider as Masiha, okay, or warriors in their respective fields. We happen to go for biopics and, of course, life writings. The life writings always remain important. So with all these things being discussed here, one thing that I would like to suggest is, and which I am taking from, directly from the latest recognition of Hindi writing through the Booker Prize this year. Writing in Hindi, translated into English, and then it getting Booker this year, establishing Hindi literature as prominent. Here, through this particular recognition of that Hindi literature, of Gitanjali Sri, translated by Deji Rockwell, I would like to say that if you happen to read any issue of Indian literature, means Journal of Sahitya Academy, if you happen to read any one issue of Indian literature, means Journal of Sahitya Academy, you will yourself get sensitized to the fact that it is always important to celebrate linguistic diversity, cultural diversity. And of course, maybe it is Odia literature, or it is Assamese literature, or it is Marathi literature, or Bengali literature, or any other literature produced in non-scheduled languages. Now, that has also got prominence in the sphere of literary research. And that's why I would request my fellow researchers and fellow friends to guide their students, research students, to subscribe to Indian Journal, Indian Literature, the Journal of Sahitya Academy, as one such journal which gives you the flavor of unity in diversity, because it publishes most of the texts originally produced in different languages and then translated into English. And that's why students may also be oriented towards researches on literatures coming from margins. That's also very important. I have got the message to conclude my presentation, and at the same time, I requested Uttam sir to please spare me at 2, because I have an urgent meeting at 2, and I am extremely grateful to the organizers for giving me this opportunity. This is a topic which knows no bounds, because we can discuss it many days together, and still we may not agree, or we may disagree all the time. Okay, it is such an open-ended topic. Okay, and I don't know how far I could justify myself, but still this was an attempt from my side. And again, I express my gratitude to Uttamji and his team, and principal sir of this very esteemed institution, and of course all the patrons and guests and of course keynote speakers and my chairperson of the session. I convey my regards to everybody, and with this I thank you all. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, Manasir.
Nalapati sir.
Yeah, audible. Okay. Professor Sanjeev Kumar ji, I am very thankful to you for giving such an all-inclusive, homogeneous presentation. You covered all the emerging trends in literary studies. As you began with literature is manifestation of life. So whatever that comes in the span of life, you have covered in your presentation all those things, all the emerging trends in literary research. So thank you for such a scholarly master stroke. Now may I request the chairperson of this session, Masa Mopsagan ma'am, Dr. Masa Mopsagan, to share views about the presentation. Dr. Masa Mopsagan, madam, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank everybody who is presented at this international seminar. I would like to thank the organizer. I would like to thank the university's president as well as the chairman of the university for organizing this international e-seminar. Thank you very much. And I would like to thank you, Dr. Sanjeev Kumar, if I'm not mistaken the name. Thank you very much. It was very, very informative presentation. You have, as Dr. Patil mentioned, you have covered almost all the aspects of the subject area. And then it was very, very informative. Thank you. Thank you again. I don't have any question, but yeah, I believe it was very, very knowledgeable and informative. If anybody has question, I think we are okay. We are open. If not, then according to me, session is closed.
Thank you, thank you, Lord.
Thank you.
मैम मैं पेपर प्रेजेंट करूंगा.
Sir, Pratap sir, the paper reading
Uttam sir,
session is
may I give
afterward,
now?
after this session.
Thank you,
Please
ma'am.
bear
Thank
with
you.
us.
Thank you.
Madhuri ma'am.
Another link is your batch.
Patil sir, are you going to pick up?
Madhuri ji, may I leave
Uttam Patil
now?
sir. You are audible, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Yeah. May I leave now because I am meeting at 2.
Sure, sir. Uttam Patil sir.
Fine, thank you.
Uttam Patil sir, will you pick up or
Uttam
shall
sir
I?
is not available.
He is there, but he has muted himself. Okay, then. Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjeev Kumar sir and Dr. Mopsagan ma'am.
Thank you.
We are entering into the second plenary session, and we have in this session two resource persons. One is the professor from Saudi Narmada Mumbai, South Gujarat University, Dr. Naresh Shukla sir, and we have with us Dr. Shivam Srivastav.
Hello.
I will
Hello.
introduce to you Mr.
आवाज येतोय?
Dr. Naresh Shukla sir, and then I'll talk about Shivam Srivastav sir, and then we can start the session. Dr. Naresh Shukla sir is from Gujarat. He has done his PhD from Bhasha Bhuvan, Gujarat University. First of all, he is a short story writer. He has written his short stories in magazines like
माझं
Kevana,
चालूच आहे ना.
Parab, Shabda Srishti, Pachad. Besides, he is an editor of Sahitya Setu, an e-journal. He has published collections of short stories like Na Kahevayeli Vartao, Dang Diary, Jenati Hu Sarjayo. More madam, do you want to say something? काय म्हणायचं आहे? तुमचा आवाज म्यूट करा please. He has also published memoir Jenati Hu Sarjayo. His books on criticism include some 7-8 books. So with us we have a man with an experience of 21 years of teaching, 60 publications on his name. He has published 14 plus books. His research and teaching interest includes comparative literature, aesthetics, criticism, research methodology, interdisciplinary research. He is, of course, a guide for PhD and MPhil. He has 44 papers published in journals in UGC Care List. He has given 50 talks, and besides that, he has 15 students who has done PhD under his supervision. I remember him when he was selected, nominated young writer from Sahitya Academy. So with us, we have a great friend of mine, Dr. Naresh Shukla sir. And along with him, we have another friend of mine, Professor Shivam Srivastav, who is the principal of a college in UP, Madan Mohan Malaviya PG College, Kala Kankar, Pratapgarh, Uttar Pradesh. And I am very proud to say that he also possesses very bright and excellent career, along with so much of work that takes me 20 pages. He has written, he has published 22 research papers, 5 books, some projects, 37 paper presentations and lectures. So we have with us today 2 very renowned young people. I always feel that old people like me shouldn't be bearing the torch, but the young people who have all the guts to face any storm that comes their way. So with these words, I welcome Dr. Naresh Shukla sir, as well as Dr. Shivam Srivastav, and I request Dr. Naresh Shukla sir to give his presentation on Sahitya Ki Sambhavna. I'm sorry with my Hindi. I welcome and request Naresh sir to give his presentation. Thank you.
धन्यवाद माधवी जी। मेरा सब्जेक्ट है साहित्यिक शोध की नई दिशाएं और संभावनाएं। पहले तो मैं इस इंटरनेशनल सेमिनार के उद्घाटक कुलपति श्री, आयोजक कॉलेज के प्रिंसिपल महोदय डॉक्टर प्रशांत जी, सेमिनार के प्रमुख संयोजक उत्तम भाई, आयोजन समिति के सभी सदस्य, इस सेशन के चेयरमैन डॉक्टर शिवम श्रीवास्तव जी और माधवी जी, आप सभी का मैं अभिवादन करता हूँ। अनुभव प्रस्तुत करने का अवसर प्रदान किया, इसके लिए आयोजकों के प्रति धन्यवाद प्रकट करता हूँ। समय बहुत कम है हमारे पास, इसलिए मैं टू द पॉइंट जो 2-3 एरिया, बाकी के जो हमारे स्पीकर्स थे उन्होंने सब कवर कर लिया है, तो मैं जो 2-3 बाकी है एरिया उन पर बात करूंगा। 21वीं सदी के प्रारंभ के 2 शतक बीत चुके हैं और हमारे आसपास का सब कुछ बदल चुका है। ग्लोबल विलेज शब्द अब हकीकत बन रहा है। 4G नेटवर्क भी अब पुराना होने जा रहा है और 5G टेक्नोलॉजी हमारे देश में दस्तक दे रही है। 100 करोड़ से अधिक इंटरनेट सेल फोन यूजर वाला हमारा देश विश्व में कई मायनों में महत्वपूर्ण होने जा रहा है। इंटरनेट, टेलीविजन और कम्युनिकेशन के नए नए माध्यमों के गहरे प्रभाव से हमारा मानस अत्यंत प्रभावित हो रहा है। आज से 5 दशक पूर्व के समय में जो संदर्भ में देखा जाए तो जीवन शैली में आमूल परिवर्तन आ चुका है। मल्टीकल्चर, त्योहारों में एकरूपता, अंग्रेजी भाषा और कल्चर का अत्यंत प्रभाव इत्यादि के बदलाव के मूल में देखा जाए तो शोध वृत्ति का बड़ा महत्व है। एक दौर ऐसा भी था जब किसी एक सब्जेक्ट में स्पेशलाइजेशन का बोलबाला था। अब बदलाव आ रहा है। शिक्षाविदों ने भी अब माना कि स्पेशलाइजेशन के बदले मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी अप्रोच से तैयार होने वाली पीढ़ी ज्यादा उपयोगी ही नहीं, आवश्यक भी है। समाज के निर्माण में मल्टीडिसिप्लिन के जानकार बढ़ने चाहिए। नई शिक्षा नीति के नए सिरे से तैयार हो रही है और इसमें शोध प्रवृत्ति पर ज्यादा ध्यान दिया जा रहा है। शोध का स्वरूप भी बदल रहा है। साहित्य और समाज विज्ञान का शोध कार्य यदि इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी नहीं होगा तो ज्यादा फलदायी भी नहीं होगा। इस बात को अब हर जगह स्वीकार किया जाता है। साहित्य के क्षेत्र में पारंपरिक रूप से जो शोध कार्य किया जा रहा है वह ज्यादातर त्रुटि, कर्ता और समीक्षा शास्त्र पर केंद्रित रहा है। इसके उपरांत देखा जाए तो विविध साहित्यिक वादों का प्रभाव, युग विभाजन और पश्चिमी विवेचन सिद्धांत के प्रभाव को अन्वेषित करने का कार्य दशकों से चल रहा है। वह जरूरी भी है, पर अब इससे काम नहीं चलेगा। स्थानीय साहित्य, क्षेत्रीय साहित्य, आंचलिक साहित्य विभिन्न धाराओं के सम्मिलित किया जा रहा है। साथ साथ लोक साहित्य, संत साहित्य, ख्यात और मौखिक परंपराओं का जो साहित्य है इसमें भी काम करने की अपार संभावनाओं तलाशी जा रही है। हमारे देश के विभिन्न प्रदेश में आज भी ऐसे हजारों हस्तलिपियां उपलब्ध है जिन पर कोई शोध कार्य नहीं हुआ है। मध्यकालीन साहित्य की परंपराओं को पूरी तरह से खंगालना अभी बाकी है। इसके लिए वर्तमान भाषाओं के प्राचीन रूप को इसके लिए देश की विभिन्न यूनिवर्सिटियों द्वारा सर्टिफिकेट कोर्स ऑफर करने होंगे। वैसे भी आजकल मध्यकालीन भाषाओं को समझने वाले विद्वानों की बहुत बड़ी कमी देखी जा रही है। मैं अगर गुजराती साहित्य के संदर्भ में बात करूं तो हमारे यहाँ आए हुए कई भंडारों में उपलब्ध हजारों हस्तलिपियों का अभी मात्र सूचीकरण ही हो पाया है। इनमें से केवल 5-7% हस्तलिपियों को पहचाना गया है। फाइनल टेक्स्ट तैयार करने का काम तो अभी अधिकांश बाकी है। इस काम को करने के लिए विशेष रूप से पौराणिक भाषा का अध्ययन करना पड़ेगा। साथ ही साथ उस समय की संस्कृति और इतिहास का ज्ञान भी बहुत ही आवश्यक है। मौखिक परंपरा के साहित्य को समझना, उसे मान्य टेक्स्ट के रूप में संपादित करना, मध्यकालीन शब्दकोश तैयार करना, हस्तप्रत के विभिन्न रूपों को पहचानना, सभी ग्रंथागारों में संकलन साधकर एक ही कृति का अलग अलग हस्तप्रतों को मिलाने का काम सचमुच ही एक भगीरथ कार्य है। पर यदि हमारी भाषाओं के मार्गदर्शक प्रोफेसर इस काम को अपने शोधार्थियों के पास करवाएंगे तो ईस्वी सन 1000 से लेकर 18वीं सदी तक के भारतीय साहित्य को सही रूप में प्रकाश में लाया जा सकता है। इस कार्य से न केवल शोध कार्य होगा, भारत के इतिहास की कई गुत्थियां भी सुलझ सकती है। साथ ही साथ मध्यकालीन भारत की सामाजिक और सांस्कृतिक तस्वीर भी उभर कर सामने आ सकती है। इन शोध कार्यों से भारतीय साहित्य के स्वरूप, समीक्षा परंपरा, कवियों की परंपरा, सांस्कृतिक परंपरा भी नए सिरे से हमारे सामने आ सकती है। ऐसा नहीं है कि इस क्षेत्र में काम नहीं हो रहा है, परंतु बड़े पैमाने पर नहीं हो रहा है, और जो हो रहा है वह भी ज्यादातर आगे जिनका मैंने उल्लेख किया उन क्षेत्रों तक ही सीमित है। नए शोधार्थियों को मैं इन अनछुए रहे मध्यकालीन भारतीय साहित्य के क्षेत्र में शोध कार्य करने के लिए अनुरोध करता हूं। साहित्यिक शोध के क्षेत्र में दूसरा जो उपेक्षित क्षेत्र है, उस तरफ भी आपका ध्यान आकर्षित करना चाहूंगा। वह है भाषा शास्त्र और भाषा विज्ञान का क्षेत्र। 19वीं सदी के पहले 3 दशकों में जो काम अंग्रेज विद्वानों और भारतीय विद्वानों ने मिलकर किया, वह आगे चलकर मंद हो गया है। विश्व की भाषाओं के मूल और उनके संबंध स्थापित करने में जो काम हुआ, वह अब आगे बढ़ना चाहिए। उस समय के विद्वानों के पास जो संसाधन थे, उनसे ज्यादा सुविधाएं अब सहज उपलब्ध है। विश्व भर की भाषाएं, पूरे देश की विभिन्न भाषाएं अब इंटरनेट के माध्यम से सहज साध्य हो चुकी है। कई भाषाओं के कोश, उनकी रचनाओं को अब आसानी से प्राप्त किया जा सकता है। ऐसे में अब हमें नए सिरे से भाषाओं के संबंधों की जांच पड़ताल करनी चाहिए। एक मूल से उपजी भाषाओं के बीच नए ढंग से संबंधों को उजागर करने का काम करना चाहिए। भाषाओं का व्याकरण, भाषाओं का ढांचा, बदलते रूप, अन्य भाषाओं के शब्दों का आदान प्रदान, उच्चारण को प्रभावित कर रही टेक्नोलॉजी का प्रभाव जैसे विषयों पर बहुत ही कम मात्रा में शोध कार्य हो रहा है। हमारे नए शोधार्थी अगर इस दिशा में सक्रिय होंगे और उससे जो परिणाम प्राप्त होंगे, वे नई सॉफ्टवेयर टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलप करने में हमारी मदद कर सकते हैं। स्थानीय भाषाओं के सॉफ्टवेयर में कई कमियां दिखी जा रही है, उनका निवारण इस प्रकार के शोध कार्य से हो पाएगा। भारतीय उपद्वीप की साहित्यिक परंपरा नितांत भिन्न और सदियों पुरानी है, इसे हम सब जानते हैं। लेकिन इस समय में जो साहित्य रचा जा रहा है और जिस समीक्षा परंपरा और शोध की प्रविधि का प्रशिक्षण दिया जा रहा है, वह पश्चिमी परंपरा की देन है। इस ढांचे को अपनाते हुए भारतीय मूल के साहित्य को पूरी तरह समझने में अनेक दिक्कतें आ सकती है। हमें अपनी पंचपदी भारतीय शोध प्रणाली को भी आत्मसात करना होगा। तर्कशास्त्र और भारतीय सिद्धांत परंपरा के अर्थ का अध्ययन करते हुए दोनों परंपराओं से अनुसंधान के अर्थ को ग्रहण करने से निश्चित तौर पर हमें नए रास्ते मिल सकते हैं। क्योंकि भारतीय परंपरा में एक उदारवादी रवैया देखा जा रहा है, जैसे कि कॉपीराइट और स्व केंद्रीय साहित्य सर्जन की मजबूत परंपरा पश्चिमी प्रभाव से प्रभावित है। भारतीय परंपरा में इसे कम ही देखा जा रहा है। विशेष रूप से मौखिक परंपरा, मध्यकालीन साहित्यिक परंपरा, लोक साहित्य की निजी परंपरा इत्यादि धाराओं को उदाहरण के तौर पर देखा जाना चाहिए। ज्ञान परंपरा में अर्चित करने की भावना से भारतीय सर्जक और शोधार्थी कार्यान्वित रहे हैं। एकाधिकार का भाव कम था। इस वजह से पारंपरिक भारतीय साहित्य की परंपरा को समझने के लिए नए तरीके अपनाने पड़ेंगे। मौखिक परंपरा, पद्य और गद्य की परंपरा और लोक परंपरा के साथ साथ शिष्ट साहित्य के प्रवाहों को भारतीय तरीकों से समझने की निदेशकों को इस बात पर जोर देने के लिए मैं आह्वान करता हूं। लोक साहित्य का शोध कार्य केवल साहित्यिक दृष्टि से नहीं हो सकता। यह ऐसा क्षेत्र है जिसमें समाज शास्त्र और संस्कृति, नृवन शास्त्र और मानस शास्त्र का अध्ययन आवश्यक है। डेटा कलेक्शन में भी समाज शास्त्र के औजार अपनाने जाना चाहिए, जैसे कि सैंपलिंग, सैंपल साइज, सैंपल की संख्या का अनुपात इत्यादि मूलभूत प्रवृत्तियों को समीक्षा, मान्य प्रत तैयार करना, मान्य पाठ का निर्धारण करके संपादन करना और संपादित पाठ की समीक्षा को आखिरी रूप देना आदि सोपान अपनाए जाने चाहिए। इस तरह से किया गया शोध कार्य आधारपूर्ण और तर्कयुक्त बनेगा और साहित्य समृद्धि से भरा होगा। इस तरह मौखिक परंपरा और आदिवासी परंपरा का जो साहित्य है उसे भी इस नई प्रविधि के आधार पर जांचना परखना होगा। मुझे लगता है कि इस क्षेत्र में अनगिनत शोध विषय अपने शोधार्थियों की राह देख रहा है। आशा करता हूं कि आने वाले समय में इन नए विषयों की ओर शोधार्थियों का ध्यान जाएगा। आत्मकथा, जीवनी, स्मृति कथा जैसे साहित्य स्वरूप की आजकल बोलबाला है। जो समाज आत्मकथा में निरूपित हुआ है उसकी हमने बहुत कम बात की है। हम उसके बारे में बात कर सकते हैं। यदि हमें बदलती नारी की छवि फिक्शन, कहानी और उपन्यास के समांतर भारतीय आत्मकथाओं का भी अध्ययन कर सकते हैं। क्यों 1970 से पहले नारी आत्मकथा कम हुआ करती थी। बाद में उसमें जो उफान आया वह उसकी मन की मुक्ति को व्यंजित करती है। यह नारी खुद के बारे में, दायित्व के बारे में, खुद की पीड़ाओं के बारे में लिखने लगी। हर क्षेत्र की नारी ने लिखा। अगर हम ध्यान से इसका अभ्यास करेंगे तो समाज शास्त्रीय दृष्टिकोण से भी कई बातें कह पाएंगे। हम मोटे तौर पर एक विधान कर देते हैं कि नारीवादी आंदोलनों के बाद सन 70 से हमारे यहाँ नारी छवि बदली, लेकिन इसका भी जरा गौर से अध्ययन करने की जरूरत है। जैसे गुजराती भाषा के महानवल गोवर्धन किस्म की नारी है। घरे बाहिरे की बिमला तो बिल्कुल ही अलग है। चौखेर बाली की नायिका विधवा है, लेकिन उसका रुआब देखिए। आरोग्य निकेतन में पति के समकक्ष गीत गाती खेलती पढ़ी लिखी नारी है। एक और आशापूर्णा देवी, मैत्री देवी और महाश्वेता देवी की नारी है, तो दूसरी ओर कन्नड़ उपन्यासकार शिवराम कारंत की धरती की सरस्वती पारो से मिली है। आशा बगे की अनोखी मैथिली से मिली है, या तो राशि देशपांडे की खामोशी, लॉन्ग साइलेंस की नायिका से मिली है। मेघाणी की 35 से 40 के दशक के बीच की नायिका से मिली है। इस्मत चुगताई की टेढ़ी लकीर की नायिका समाज की दीवारों से सर फोड़कर, बुर्खा निकालकर पढ़ने की जीत पर अड़ी हुई है। वह पढ़कर कमाकर पुरुषों की बनाई दुनिया में अपना मकाम कायम करती है। पूरे देश में आपको 1970 से पहले ऐसी कितनी ठंडी ताकत का परिचय कराने वाली नारियां मिल जाए। नारी आंदोलन हुए, इसके बाद कहानी उपन्यास की नारी छवि कैसे बदली वह भी आप कर सकते हैं। यह विषय लेते तो है सब, लेकिन उनको 1970 के पहले के साहित्य के साथ तुलना करने का किसी को सोचता नहीं है। स्त्री को न्याय दिलाने वाले कानून बने, नारी आंदोलन हुए, इसके बाद खास करके 75 के बाद नारी की कैसी छवि सामने आई। पढ़ी लिखी कमाने वाली औरत की समस्याएं क्या बदल गई है? हमें याद रखना है कि हर समय खंड में समग्र भारतवर्ष में कुटुंब या समाज के प्रश्न स्त्री के लिए एक से है। शोधकर्ता यदि समर्थन में है तो वह इस नारी छवि द्वारा भारतीयता की खोज कर सकते हैं। फिक्शन को बेस बना के भारतीयता की खोज दूसरे तरीके से भी की जा सकती है। ये बात कर सकते हैं। मैं थोड़ा शॉर्ट में बता रहा हूं। इन दिनों साहित्यिक शोध की जो प्रवृत्ति चल रही है, उसमें साहित्य के साथ साथ यदि इंटरडिसिप्लिनरी विषय को स्थान दिया जाए तो नई दिशाएं खुल सकती है। इस दिशा में थोड़े निर्देश दे रहा हूँ। साहित्य और समाज, साहित्य और मानस शास्त्र, साहित्य और सिनेमा जैसे विषयों पर तो बहुत शोध कार्य होने लगा है, अच्छी बात है। परंतु मैंने निजी अनुभव से जाना है कि साहित्य का शोधार्थी अपनी डिसिप्लिन की सीमा लांघकर दूसरी डिसिप्लिन का गहरा अध्ययन नहीं करता। समाज शास्त्र के 2-3 प्रसिद्ध सिद्धांतों को ऊपरी तौर पर समझ लेता है और उन्हें साहित्य कृति में अप्लाई करके संतुष्ट हो जाता है। असल में दूसरी डिसिप्लिन के सिद्धांतों का गहन अध्ययन जरूरी है। अपनी डिसिप्लिन जितना ही गहरा अध्ययन अन्य डिसिप्लिन का होगा, तब उसका शोध कार्य स्तरीय शोध कार्य बन सकता है। शोधार्थी को साहित्य के साथ अन्य कलाओं जैसे कि चित्र परंपरा, शिल्प परंपरा, नाट्य, नृत्य इत्यादि कलाओं के संबंध को भी जानना चाहिए। साहित्य और भूगोल का संबंध अटूट होता है, उसे भी जानना जरूरी है। विज्ञान और साहित्य का संबंध आजकल का नहीं है। विज्ञान को साहित्यकारों ने कल्पनाएं दी है। साइंस फिक्शन की रचनाओं को आधार पर साइंस के सिद्धांतों और साइंस के आविष्कारों के संबंध को प्रस्तावित करना भी साहित्यिक शोध का ही कार्य क्षेत्र है। साहित्य के शोधार्थी का यह दायित्व है कि वह साहित्यिक सिद्धांतों को नए तौर तरीकों से जांचे परखे, वर्तमान समय के साथ उसमें आए नए नए बदलावों को रेखांकित करे और नई परंपराओं को प्रस्तावित करे। नए साहित्यिक प्रवाह, नई साहित्यिक परंपराओं को समझना और समझाना, कई कारणों से हाशिए में रह गए सर्जकों को मुख्य प्रवाह में प्रस्तावित करने का भी प्रयास करना है। एस्थेटिक्स में आ रहे नए बदलावों को पहचानना, नई दृष्टि से पुराने सिद्धांतों को उजागर करना और व्याख्यायित करना, युग विभाजन को समझना और इसमें रह गए लूप होल को ढूंढ निकालना, ट्रेंड समझना, बदलते साहित्यिक स्वरूप में आ रहे बदलावों को समझना आदि काम तो साहित्यिक शोध में होता ही रहता है और होते रहना भी चाहिए। बस इन 4 पहलू आशा करता हूं कि आप सबको मेरे विचारों से कुछ नई बातें प्राप्त हुई होगी। शोध का कार्य क्षेत्र बड़ा ही व्यापक क्षेत्र है, कई संभावनाएं खुली भी है और आने वाले समय में खुल भी सकती है। पूरी लगन से, निष्ठा से और समाज उपयोगी दृष्टिकोण से शोध का कार्य हाथ पर तो जरूर कुछ नया और फलदायी परिणाम मनुष्य जाति को मिलेगा और ऐसी स्थिति में जो परम आनंद प्राप्त होगा वह शोधार्थी की आत्मा को अवश्य बहुत बड़े परिमाण की ओर ले जाएगा, ऐसी मैं आशा रखता हूं। और समय के बंधन को नजर में रखते हुए मैं मेरी बात यहाँ पूरी करता हूं। आप सबके प्रति धन्यवाद प्रकट करता हूं कि इस कुछ विचारों को आपने आपके सामने रखने के लिए मुझे अवसर दिया। धन्यवाद सभी आयोजकों और पार्टिसिपेंट का, धन्यवाद।
हेलो,
यदि प्रश्न हो तो जरूर हम बात करेंगे। नमस्कार शिवम जी।
नमस्कार, नमस्कार शुक्ला जी।
माइक ऑफ कर दीजिए, हमेशा वो चालू रहता है। सो इट वाज अ वेरी नाइस प्रेजेंटेशन शिवम सर, नरेश सर। पहले जो रिसोर्स पर्सन थे उन्होंने अपना 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 आपने अपनी बातें इतनी बड़ी पैमाने पे रख दी, तो मुझे तो लग रहा था कि अभी नरेश सर के लिए बचा क्या है, मगर आपने बहुत अच्छा प्रेजेंटेशन दिया। लोक परंपराओं में, प्राचीन परंपराओं में, उनके संशोधन में जो भी नई दिशाएं होनी चाहिए, जो कि असल भारतीय हो, उस पर आपने अपना प्रकाश डाला। थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर अ वेरी लाइवली
रखे थे पेपर में, लेकिन वो सब बातें हो गई तो रिपीट करना उचित नहीं समझा, इसलिए।
नहीं, बहुत अच्छा था, बहुत अच्छा था। मैंने अभी सुबह से मैं सुन रही हूँ, किसी एक भी आरपी ने, किसी एक भी रिसोर्स पर्सन ने कोई भी बात रिपीट नहीं करी। सबने अपने अपने अलग से विचार रखे, और वो भी शुद्ध हिंदी में। नरेश सर, दैट इज कमेंडेबल। आपने सिर्फ एक शब्द गुजराती का यूज किया, और वो था सौ ने आभार। बाकी सब आप पूरा हिंदी बोल गए। Thank you. And now I would like to invite
हेलो,
my friend, Dr. Shivam Srivastav sir, for giving some comments on this session as the chairperson. Dr. Shivam Srivastav sir.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद डॉक्टर माधवी जी। फ्रेंड्स इन रिसर्च विषय टॉपिक पर राजर्षि साहू आर्ट्स एंड कॉमर्स कॉलेज रुकाडी कोल्हापुर महाराष्ट्र से आयोजित इस वेब सेमिनार में उपस्थित सभी प्रतिभागीगण, विश्वविद्यालय के विद्वान कुलपति प्रोफेसर PS पाटिल सर, जिन्होंने इस बहुत ही ज्यादा मूल्यपरक और उपयोगी वार्तालाप का उद्घाटन किया, और अपने उद्घाटन भाषण में ही उन्होंने जिस तरह से इसकी पृष्ठभूमि तय कर दी थी, उसे ऐसे लग रहा था कि यह सफलता के शिखर पर पहुंचेगा। और निश्चित रूप से इस सेशन के हमारे मुख्य वक्ता प्रोफेसर नरेश शुक्ला सर ने उसको वहीं तक पहुंचाया जो चीजें रह गई थी। साहित्य और भाषा से संबंधित शोध के माध्यम से उन्होंने अपने विचारों से उसको पुष्ट किया, और इस पूरे विचार गोष्ठी को उत्कर्ष तक ले गए। उनके द्वारा जो बातें कही गई अभी, मुझे लगता है कि उनमें से अभी शोधार्थियों को उस ओर ध्यान देने की जरूरत है। अभी हम लोग राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति के आलोक में पूरे भारतवर्ष की शिक्षा प्रणाली को ठीक तरह से पहली बार चेंज कर रहे हैं, जिसमें भारतीयता को महत्व दिया गया है। और शुक्ला सर ने बड़े ही खूबसूरती से लोक संस्कृति को, लोक साहित्य को, आदिवासी साहित्य को रेखांकित करते हुए शोध की नई दिशाओं तक ले जाने की कोशिश शोधार्थियों के लिए की है। मैं समझता हूं कि इस विचार गोष्ठी में जितने भी शोधार्थी हमारे साथ हैं, उन शोधार्थियों को इससे भाषा के विषय में शोध करने में बहुत ही महत्व मिलेगा, और निश्चित रूप से ऐसे शोध हमें नई दिशा प्रदान करेंगे। उन्होंने महिला साहित्य पर भी थोड़ी सी चर्चा की, आत्मकथा और जीवनी के संबंध में कही बातें, अंतर विषयक शोध पर भी उन्होंने बहुत सम्यक प्रकाश डाला। मुझे लगता है कि आधी आबादी पर और भी काम होने की जरूरत है। गुजराती में बहुत सारे साहित्य सर ने पढ़े होंगे, मुझे ज्यादा ध्यान इसकी जानकारी होगी। मैं जानता हूं कि सर इस मामले में बहुत ही श्रेष्ठ विद्वान हैं, गुजराती के बहुत बड़े प्रोफेसर हैं, लेकिन हिंदी पर जिस तरह से उनकी पकड़ है या अधिकार है, उसको भी देखकर मैं बिल्कुल अभिभूत हूं। मुझे लगता है कि हिंदी में भी प्रभा खेतान जैसी आत्मकथाओं को, जिसमें अन्या और अनन्या में उन्होंने बहुत अच्छी तरह से उन्होंने जीवनी, एक बोल्ड जीवनी लिखी है और महिलाओं के अपने दर्द को बयां किया है बड़े ही खूबसूरती के तरह से। इसमें जो भी शोधार्थी हैं, मैं उनसे अपेक्षा करूंगा कि वो अन्या और अनन्या नामक उनकी जीवनी जरूर पढ़ें, प्रभा खेतान की। वो बहुत ही अच्छी महिला, एक महिला साहित्यिक देन है। मैं विशेष रूप से कुलपति जी के प्रति, हालांकि मैं इस सत्र में नहीं हूं जब कुलपति जी ने उद्घाटन किया था, लेकिन कुलपति जी ने जो कुछ बातें कही थी वो बहुत ही मार्केबल हैं। क्योंकि बहुत ज्यादा समय नहीं है, लेकिन कुछ बातें जरूर मैं चाहूंगा कहना। उन्होंने विद्यार्थियों के साथ उन्होंने कहा कि विद्यार्थी ऐसे बनाइए आप लोग कि जो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्वर ऑफ द सोसाइटी हो। इस बात को हम सबको याद करना चाहिए, हम सबको ध्यान रखना चाहिए और अपने टीचिंग प्रोफेशन के साथ इसको जोड़कर लेके जाना चाहिए कि हम विद्यार्थी को आने के बाद समस्याओं से घेर न दें, बल्कि वो समस्याओं के सॉल्वर बने। वो नौकरी तलाशता हुआ युवक ना निकले कॉलेज से, यूनिवर्सिटी से नौकरी देता हुआ जो विद्यार्थी है वो निकले, और ऐसे ही शोध की जरूरत है। उन्होंने बहुत अच्छे तरह से स्टार्टअप्स को प्रमोट करने की बात कही, नए प्रोडक्ट बनाने की बात कही। उन्होंने कहा कि विशेष तरह से इंटरप्रेन्योरशिप, आत्मनिर्भरता, इसके अतिरिक्त जो कुछ भी है, बहुत सारे विचारों की जरूरत नहीं है, बल्कि विभिन्न तरह के विचारों की जरूरत नहीं है, बल्कि अलग तरह का विचार व्यक्ति में आए, ऐसी जरूरत है। हमारा विद्यार्थी बहुत ही ज्यादा स्ट्रेस है इस समय। पूरे उत्तर भारत के बारे में मैं कह सकता हूं कि बहुत अच्छी प्रतिभा जो वास्तव में रिसर्च करना चाहती है, उनको अभी भी रिसर्च करने से वंचित किया जाता है। तमाम तरह के भ्रष्टाचार हमारे शिक्षा संस्थानों में व्याप्त हैं। मैं तो इस मंच के माध्यम से अपनी बात अब सब तक और पूरे भारत के पटल पर ले आना चाहूंगा कि जो विद्यार्थी जेआरएफ क्वालिफाइड हो जाए, उसको वरीयता के आधार पर रिसर्च का मौका देना चाहिए, और वास्तविक जो रिसर्चर है उसको खोजने की जरूरत है। बल्कि हम अपने भाई भतीजेवाद से निकल करके रिसर्च उन विद्यार्थियों को कराएं जो वास्तव में रिसर्च करना चाहते हैं। तब शायद देश की जो इस तरह की महत्वाकांक्षी सरकार है और हमारी राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति है, वो शायद अपने अर्थों तक पहुंच पाएगी और उद्देश्यों को प्राप्त कर सकेगी। मैंने प्रोफेसर शुक्ला जी की बातचीत को सबसे पहले लेते हुए कुछ चीजें छोड़ दी। मैं बहुत बहुत आभारी हूँ महाविद्यालय के प्राचार्य प्रोफेसर प्रशांत कांबले जी का, कन्वीनर, इस संगोष्ठी के कन्वीनर जी डॉक्टर उत्तम पाटिल जी का, कोऑर्डिनेटर्स डॉक्टर अशोक पटेल जी का, प्रोफेसर गिरीश मोरे जी का और प्रोफेसर लता जी का, और सबसे ज्यादा मैं आभारी हूँ अपनी बड़ी बहन प्रोफेसर माधवी सोलंकुरकर जी का, जिन्होंने मुझे बहुत महत्व दिया और मुझे इस मंच तक ले आई। वास्तव में नरेश शुक्ला सर को भी सुनने की बहुत इच्छा थी। मैं कई बार उनको फेसबुक पे सुनता रहता हूँ, लेकिन इस तरह से लाइव हम लोग एक साथ होंगे, इसका पूरा पूरा श्रेय माधवी जी को जाता है। मैं पूरे महाविद्यालय परिवार के प्रति आभार ज्ञापित करता हूं और आप सभी के उज्जवल भविष्य की कामना करता हूं। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद।
इस सब प्रेजेंटेशन का जायजा लिया। मैं आपकी हिंदी से बहुत डरती हूँ, फिर भी अभी आप जो बोले वो मुझे साफ समझ में आया, तो ये बहुत अच्छी बात है। थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर चेयरिंग दिस सेशन सर।
It was nice having both of you with us, and I hope that in future we will have more such opportunities to get you in my plan of get good researchers. So ये खत्म नहीं हुआ है अभी सिलसिला, बहुत सारी ऐसी शायद तो संभावनाएं होंगी जहाँ पे मैं आपको फिर से आने का कष्ट दे सकती हूँ. थैंक यू वेरी मच. मेरा सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स को अभी ये निवेदन है कि आप अपना अपना मोबाइल चेक करिए. हम लोगों ने अलग अलग पेपर प्रेजेंटेशन के ग्रुप्स बनाए हैं. आपका नाम जिस भी ग्रुप में होगा उनका मैसेज और उस ग्रुप के लिंक आपके मोबाइल पर आई होंगी. आप प्लीज वो ग्रुप ज्वाइन करिए ताकि आपके पेपर वहां पे प्रेजेंट हो सके. उनको उसमें डाला गया. सो प्लीज चेक योर मोबाइल फोन. आपका मोबाइल फोन पे ग्रुप में आप नहीं आ सकते हो तो फिर इनवाइट किया होगा आपको. तो चेक द व्हाट्सएप. सभी को अलग अलग लिंक्स दी गई है ताकि सबको चांस मिले अपना अपना पेपर प्रेजेंट करने के लिए. ओके देन थैंक यू सर. Dr. Shankar Dalvi sir to give a vote of thanks. Shankar Dalvi sir.
धन्यवाद. आज के द्वितीय सत्र के विशेषज्ञ डॉक्टर नरेश शुक्ला जी, गुजराती भाषा विभाग अध्यक्ष वीर नर्मद दक्षिण गुजरात विश्वविद्यालय सूरत, साहित्यिक क्षेत्र में होते बदलाव को बहुत सुंदर तरह से आपने विवेचन किया, हमारे सामने विचार रखे. आपके इन विचारों से बहुत ही हम लाभान्वित हुए. धन्यवाद सर. आपने अनमोल विचारों से हमें अवगत कराया. इस सत्र के सत्राध्यक्ष डॉक्टर शिवम श्रीवास्तव जी, प्रिंसिपल मदन मोहन मालवीय, कॉलेज कालाकंकर प्रतापगढ़ उत्तर प्रदेश से, जिन्होंने अपनी अध्यक्षता में बहुत ही सुंदर विचारों से हमें अवगत कराया तथा संशोधन विषय पर बहुत ही सटीक टिप्पणी उन्होंने कर दी. यह बहुत ही हमें और सभी संशोधन के क्षेत्र में काम करने वाले लोगों के लिए प्रभावित करने वाली है. इस तकनीकी अंतर्जाल से जुड़े सभी विद्वज्जन प्रतिभागी, सभी सहयोगी संशोधक छात्र को भी मैं तहे दिल से उनके प्रति आभार व्यक्त करता हूं. हमारे कॉलेज की ओर से तथा संस्था की ओर से भी उन सभी का शुक्रिया अदा व्यक्त करता हूं. आप सभी लोगों के महानुभावों के कारण ही यह द्वितीय सत्र यहाँ पर समाप्त हो रहा है. मैं फिर एक बार सभी विद्वज्जनों का आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ और यहीं पर अपनी वाणी को विराम देता हूँ. धन्यवाद.
धन्यवाद सर. हम अभी बंद कर फिर से 3:15 बजे राइट 3:15 हम लोग वैलिडिक्टी फंक्शन के लिए यहाँ पे फिर जमा होंगे. सो आई विल लीव दिस सेशन नाउ एंड आई रिक्वेस्ट यू टू जॉइन योर ग्रुप एंड गेट योर पेपर प्रेजेंटेड देयर. So this is a request from our side. Please leave this group and go